I derailed it so fast. I was trying to get John to teach me how to play this Officer Down riff, and like I had it until we actually had to do it for. Well, I didn't have it. I had my own version of it until we actually had to do it. And
I mean, you learned it in 5 seconds.
I waited too long. It's like, right?
Oh, it's pretty close.
Yeah, it's in there somewhere. What's going on, everybody?
Did you guys get that?
Yeah, it was like. Yeah.
Can I?
You can edit it later, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, for sure.
Just shuffle things around a little bit for us. What's going on? Do us a favor and smash, caress, whatever you want to say, that like button for us. We have a special guest tonight. We have John Paul Peters from Privateer Studios, the Undecided
Privateer Recording.
Band. Privateer Recording,
yes.
Sorry.
Okay. It says that on the parking stall.
It's over already. Yes, Privateer. This is actually how I've always referred to it, but I try to be smart. Yeah, so we probably only really, like, we met a long time ago as our bands kind of, like, well, as we opened up, 1 or 2 shows for you guys, but, like...
Backstage.
20 years ago, probably.
Backstage, ring a bell?
Oh, yeah, in Steinbach.
Little youth center in Steinbach.
Man. The one that I remember the most, to be honest, was we played with you guys at a really tiny youth center in Niverville. So about like 15, 20 minutes south of here. And the show was just over. And I remember, or just awful. I remember there was like, Stobes, what was there, like maybe 10 people? Like
less.
Yeah. It was just terrible. And I remember, like, Matt's your lead singer, right?
Yep.
Matt was just so choked because there was no one there. And we played, we opened for you guys, and then we left, like, probably while you guys were playing, because we were playing again out at some barn in Kleefeld with the Rippers. Like,
see, that sounds like a good show.
Yeah. It was much better than what we did. And I remember being like, why did they book a show at this youth center tonight?
The Barn.
The Barn. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a blast. Yeah.
It was so much fun. Well, the thing I was telling you about before we started with Bucky Drieger, that was the first time Mark Peters did a show that was considered like the barn, but it was in the guy's backyard. Because there was 2 barns originally. I don't know if you played there was one right in Kleefeld, and then later on there was another one. Stubbs, this is going back so long. Do you remember doing that? Like, there was one that didn't have cows, and there was another one that was right beside. Like, it was
I've never been to
farm.
the cows one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other one was fun, like where they did Barn Fest, where he'd do like a summer festival with like 2 flat deck trailers.
I think this is a different barn. The strange thing is we used to put on shows at a barn in Kleefeld, but there was a loft, and it was all graffitied up in there.
That's the one.
That's
the one. Okay.
That's the first one.
Okay.
So we played in that guy's backyard first.
It used to be like just the guy would smoke a lot of pot with his friends up there. And then it turned into a music thing where they had all sorts of amps and percussion and stuff. And people would just go there and like actually have a kind of a music experience, like this weird grassroots. People that had never played instruments would just go show up and record stuff on a 4-track.
That sounds like half of the people that played shows there too. At least the ones that I played, it sounded.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a whole lot of like I said, we have some mutual friends from our local scene here, and one of them is this guy named Bucky that plays in a killer band called Royal Canoe that you've worked with. And I was telling John just before that the first time I saw them, Bucky was singing for like a Rage Against the Machine cover band at in this guy's backyard. And I remember we showed up, and I was like,
that surprises me because when I don't think Bucky, I don't think
Rage Against the Machine cover band. Yeah,
the Liptonians.
The Lipton. Yes,
that's Bucky's second or third band.
That's right, because they lived on Lipton.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's how it works in Winnipeg. If you live on a certain street, I guess I live on Green, so I should be the Greenians.
You live on Green, like in Kildonan?
Greene. Yeah.
My cousin lived on Green for.
See?
Yeah.
There you go.
It's a small city. So we don't really have like a huge plan or anything tonight. We're just going to hang out and kind of chat about, your rig a little bit. I got some questions for you about producing, and, we'll reminisce a little bit more about, old shows and, kind of hear a little bit about about John and about like you produced where most of our guys are going to know you from is the new Comeback Kid record. 'Cause there's a lot of Comeback Kid fans that have our stuff and.
But our Rev didn't have this.
No,
This beautiful.
This is really nice. So this is.
I'm taking this home.
It's
like
this is going to NAMM actually in
good.
like 2 weeks, and it's for a YouTuber named Perfecto de Castro. That's a Filipino dude out of LA.
Familiar.
Yeah, great player. Cool demo. Like
Been watching the TikToks.
Man, he did probably the most fun demo of our G8 like gate pedal. He did like. Manny, how would you describe that thing? You know what he did where he used it to sample like almost like dance beats style things? Did you see that?
I don't think I saw that.
You know what I'm talking about?
No.
It was the coolest demo for a gate, like
And then running it through, or using the gate to like manipulate it. in the
using
loop.
the gate to manipulate.
Oh,
it.
that's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah. So if you guys haven't checked out Perfecto's, go find
Cool.
Perfecto's
Yep.
G8 video. It's fun.
Send me the link.
Yeah, completely different than anything that we've done. So
That's cool.
the Winnipeg, Robbie says, "Yo, the Winnipeg or wow, the Winnipeg music scene sounds lit." It was, man. I'm pretty far removed from whatever it is now.
Was Threadline like? Were you based out of Winnipeg then?
Kinda, yeah. Like
Okay.
Stobes lived in Carmen, and I grew up in Carmen.
Right.
But the other guys were all from Winnipeg, so.
Because we were actually all in the Steinbach, like Kleefeld kind of small town area.
Yes. Yeah. So we ended up with one of our bass player later on, like our second bass player was a dude named Jeff Neufeld. That he actually originally played in that Alpacas for Sale band with
Oh, okay.
with Bucky and
Yeah, that's how
Matt.
Winnipeg works. It's
Yeah,
like everybody's.
yeah.
You played in that band that I also played in, but at
Yeah.
a different time. So I.
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, we never met, but I took over for you when you left, and then
Right,
we
exactly.
changed genres completely.
Yeah.
But we kept the same name because we wanted people to come out to
Yeah,
the show.
and kept your songs, and nobody worried about royalties or anything
Dude,
like.
that was the trippiest thing for me when I started talking to Travis from the Rippers when the Rippers came, like when Chris moved back home and the Rippers started, and I was thinking it was like back to like pop punk, rock and roll.
Right.
And as soon as there it is.
Oh, is this a reminder?
Oh yeah. Thanks, guys. Oh yeah, I forgot to ask everybody what they're drinking. As everybody knows, I drink sissy beer, so I have Stiegel Radlers.
And we've got a local 1919. From,
Yeah. So yeah, they. I'm trying to think. Yeah. So we had some.
But
people
before
that-
pop punk, the Rippers were doing kind of a. I don't know if they were drop tune, but it was like a heavier thing.
Yeah, it was like a really hard, rocky, borderline like
Yeah.
punk metal thing.
Yeah, and then they got really poppy, like really
Mm-hmm.
poppy singy.
When Keith and Doug were in the band,
Right.
Keith was a huge pop punk guy, so
Yeah.
I think he was a lot of that influence. And then when they came back, they're way more like just straight up rock and roll. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, like more along kind of the things I like about Foo Fighters, and like maybe a little more. They were definitely more like rough around the edges. Like they would be like just live and like more visceral, and the Foo Fighters would be a lot tighter in like production intensity. But they love that. Like the first time we recorded.
Yep.
Oh no, the first time we recorded it was all multi-tracked.
Yep.
But that was just like demos early with the band. And I think
Yep.
the first time we did a record, they were like, we want all the amps just like right by the drum set, and we're gonna sing, and that's gonna be the vocal. And I was like, wow.
Okay.
So rock amps and vocal, and we're gonna like not only pointing at the audience, but now you've got everything going right in the vocal mic. So we made it work.
That's awesome.
You know.
Yeah.
There's
so
always
if-
compromises.
If you guys haven't checked it out, check out a band called the Rippers from
great
from
band.
Winnipeg. If you haven't figured out, we're going to talk a lot about the Winnipeg
and talk about
music scene.
cross-pollination, right?
Yes.
So our old bass player Dan
Yes.
is guitar in the Rippers.
Yeah, and Dan is like
He's probably watching right now.
Dude, I realized like right before you got here, I'm like, he is so gonna whoop my ass for not telling him that you were gonna be here tonight.
I was gonna call him on the way down.
and tell him to come here because he's 2 miles away, and he's got just the most gorgeous vintage gear all the time. Like he's got a '69 Paisley Telecaster, and he's got just Always the
That's
coolest
his.
shit.
That's his bag. I'm glad he's not here because I've just got my, my median, my few choices.
Oh yeah,
You know?
your few choices are pretty impressive. So, okay, let's first of all talk about your guitar because you let me borrow that guitar when we were talking about. We did a live stream where it was called Les Pauls or More Pauls, and
Right.
we were talking about kind of the differences between a bunch of different Les Pauls. And when we were talking about the idea, I was like, man, I'm like, JP has got this killer deluxe, and
Well, thank you.
yeah, and I'm like, I had never played it. I'm like, it just looks so awesome that and I had heard a ton of records that you had used it on.
So
and I was like,
special features include a cigarette burn.
yes.
Right here. Don't know if you can see that.
Did you put that cigarette burn
Oh
in
no.
there?
I did smoke for a while.
Yeah?
But this was long before. Like the guitar, when I got it when I was 16, it smelled like bars.
Yeah.
Other special features. I don't know if this is from someone's leather jacket.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. It's like the right
And the
amount
cracking
of worn. The checking, like the finish crack on that is just unbelievable. Like,
This is my sweat. I take credit for the green stuff.
Okay,
For
yeah.
the really moldy,
Yep.
post-Christian sweat.
Yeah.
Whatever was in here.
That's awesome.
When I got it, it was probably more like right around this area,
Right.
and then just the sweat. I can't believe, like looking back, I can't believe I toured with this.
Right.
Like I can't believe I jumped into crowds with this guitar, because I would never do that now.
No.
I'd be rolling an Epiphone or something.
You know, like I did that. So when I started with Threadline, like I had a PV EVH Wolfgang guitar that in 1998 cost me in Canadian dollars. Sorry to all you guys that are American, but in Canadian dollars it cost me like $2,700 back in 1998.
Yeah, so about 2,300 US.
Yeah, and I just like I beat the hell out of that guitar playing live.
Did it have the stripes on it?
No, it was the newer one. Like it looked more like the Ernie Ball, like the flame maple tops, and like just like more like a more pretty guitar. But I was a huge Van Halen fan, so that was the guitar I was gonna buy.
Yeah,
But
obviously.
I would do the guitar flip tricks and stuff with it. And actually, funniest of all is backstage in Steinbach. We were playing there during whatever the summer festival is. So they had skate ramps out.
Like this would be 15 years ago.
Oh, at least, yeah.
Yeah.
Early 2000s.
Yeah.
Like, and they had brought out like half pipe or quarter pipes, and put them kind of on the street, and the streets were blocked off during. I don't know what they called.
We're not talking about street havoc.
I have
like-
no idea.
Okay.
But is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So
because Street Havoc was basically like was that backstage?
yeah.
Like it was more of a kind of a organic roots thing, and then obviously Steinbach started having like these big midways and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
music festivals in summer, but that's more like corporate.
Okay. So I just know that the YFC there put this
Right.
thing on.
Yeah.
We got booked to play, and we were playing outside on the ground in front of the skate park, or not the skate park, but in front of like the half pipes, right, Stopes? Like
Oh
there's
yeah,
two
for
quarter
sure.
pipes, right?
Like right in front of it.
Yeah.
Like on the cobblestones or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we had one song where there was like one riff where all of a sudden there was like a big like just, and I would throw my guitar and catch it to start back into that part.
I'm impressed.
Dude, I threw this guitar and I felt the Strat button come out. And it was my only, like I had a US Strat and I had this guitar and I didn't have anything else at that time to my name. And I feel the guitar go like this. And those Wolfgangs have this little, almost like a thumb indent in the top of the headstock. And I caught my guitar out here like this, pulled it back in and like played the rest of the song like this
Hunched
on my knee. And then I was like, I looked at it and I had ripped the screw, everything had ripped right out. And I was like, I need to get another guitar.
You need to get Schallers.
Yeah. Well, I had them.
Oh, you did?
I had actually, we epoxied.
Yes.
Like Stokes and I epoxied the screws in and it still came out. And I was like, that's it. So I went and bought a Tom DeLonge Strat for like $600 or something like that at the time. And I'm like, oh no, first I had a shitty Dan Electro guitar that I had like covered in stickers. I took a drill, I just drilled out enough space to mount a humbucker in it. I mounted a humbucker that to this day is still held in by the stickers because there's no wood left, so it doesn't sound very nice, but it worked great for that one guitar flip trick. And like I would use it for one part of every show. But yeah, like I thought, after long after the band was done, I was like, what the hell was I thinking using this for everything? Like yeah.
I found an old Westtown, which I think came to me through the singer of Officer Down. He didn't play guitar, but he had an old Westtown piece of junk. And he was probably in high school at the time, and I was in grade 8. And I built a guitar body.
Yep.
With pallet board, with ash pallet board. And I made like a bite out of it, and I gave it a name. I called it Giver or something like that. So when we started playing bar shows, like I would use that one for the throw it along the floor and jump on it. So,
nice.
Yeah. I wouldn't use my other guitars because obviously these ones, I mean.
Oh, you'll snap the headstock off on that.
I've seen it happen. Yeah. Yeah.
You've seen somebody actually do it?
Yeah.
Oh, I have not seen that.
High school stage band. Like all the bands go to some town and there's a competition or whatever for the stage bands. And this guitar player from one of the town's bands had put his or her guitar down at the edge of the row. And as they filed out, like it got stomped on and it snapped off right there. And my memory is just this guy, like, or whoever, just totally like on the floor crying. And it was a beautiful standard, like a beautiful Les Paul standard.
I can't. Yeah.
And I always like that. To me, that was like, no, I will never do that.
Yeah, I can't.
To a guitar.
I
I don't even put guitars on the floor.
No.
No, I pick up people's guitars. I'm like, don't do that. I don't care.
I do set them down.
I don't care because I do care.
I will absolutely do this.
Oh no! See,
and but I know who's gonna be in here.
This is only 4 inches from that hitting the floor, and then Dorian stepping on it, right? Like it's.
You have stepped on a few things. The teleprompter here is broken, so John might not be wrong about this. Yeah, I think it comes down to like for me, and maybe I don't know if this is the same for you. Like that's the guitar that I wrote, like probably 90% of the songs that I did in Threadline with. So it was the thing that I was always the most comfortable with. It was the thing that I always used to record with. So it became the thing that I used live until I realized I'm absolutely going to wreck this during a show, and I can't afford to replace it with much of anything. So I might as well get something else that if I wreck it, it's not going to be a big deal.
Totally makes sense.
Yeah, but it took a long time.
But the downside to that is like when you actually care about your sound live. Like this guitar always did a thing for me, and I just didn't want to. Like I couldn't afford a lot of other guitars.
Yeah.
But I went through a couple other guitars on the side, and it would just keep coming back to this one. So I did though for a time have a replacement Seymour Duncan soap bar in there.
Okay.
And it was a little bit tighter sounding.
Okay.
But it didn't have the openness.
Yeah.
So actually, for the heavier band that I played in Officer Down, like that would have gone microphonic too much.
Okay.
Yeah, you couldn't even probably this angle to the amps. It would have already been screeching. So and it's not the good screech, right?
Right.
Not proper feedback. So.
Yeah.
But as soon as I was done with that, the old one came back in. So.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't think I ever cared that much about how I sounded live. I don't think I knew what I should sound like, or I knew what.
Loud.
You, yeah. I like you. I ended up with a triple rectifier the second I could afford one, and that amp with a 4x12 oversized recto cab was like it sounded so huge. It drove Stobe's nuts because Stobe actually mixes things way too much bottom end. But when it's just me playing, it sounded killer, right? But that's actually what, like, funny segue, that's what attracted me to Rev when I met Dan, because I met Dan because he needed somebody to be able to screen print the faceplate for the original generator prototypes. And I was like, well, cool, you're building an amp. Like, man, I can do your screen printing. I'm like, but bring down the amp for me to try. I'd love to try it. And when he brought it to my house, I had set it on top of my I had a dual rectifier at the time.
So this is like an original prototype of.
Yeah, his original.
Close to the original of these, or.
It is almost identical. You see that one on the bottom there? That is.
Oh yeah.
That is the third one that he ever built.
The OG.
Yep. So that's the only. That's one of 2 hand-wired amps that still exists.
Wow.
So, so when he brought it down, what I loved about it was on that red and that purple channel, the fact that there wasn't that like muddiness in the low end that there is in the rectifier. And I never used an OD pedal or anything like that to try to tighten up my rectifier. I just played it like all my.
I mean,
drives
you
came from
and
the
me
amp.
both, right? Like that's not something I thought. I was on the mindset of like the amp is what creates the tone,
Yes.
right? Like definitely Stevie Ray Vaughan. It's the amp that
Yeah.
creates the tone. He does not use a tube screamer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I only in the last couple of years got into like you've got. I mean, we should talk about your board here in a second, but
Yeah, let's just say this wouldn't be if I was touring.
Yeah.
This would not be my board. This is my Bass Elements studio board.
right. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of similar that like here, I have like a drive, a crunch, and then I have the 2, like the channel 3 and channel 4 essentially, and then this is Joey Landreth's signature
Yep.
overdrive. I never use this.
There's a tone man right there, Joey
Yes.
Landreth.
Yes.
New album out.
Yes. Like,
Can't wait to hear it.
oh, he's just, the guy's so disgusting how
Oh, yeah.
good he is. At everything, at playing, at singing, like, as a human being. Everything he is good at. Like, he's just good people.
I think they need to make like a Marvel comic style thing where it's him and Ariel are like fighting each other for supremacy in like this
Yeah.
guitar world.
Yeah, who's the, yeah, both of them coming from Winnipeg. Like,
know, it's-
it is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, if I
might as well just put my guitar down when I talk about those guys.
yeah.
I can play a G chord.
Yeah, exactly. I can play it like 47 different ways in every different voicing you can imagine.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and on the fly, like, because I hear it in my head and then it translates to my hands. I remember,
Yep.
like, talking with Sam Jacobs. One of the first times that he drove to NAMM with me, he was sitting beside me. I was driving. He's sitting in the passenger seat. And he's got his headphones on. He's got his laptop out, and he's transcribing something. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm writing our new album. And I'm like, oh, you mean like you're transcribing it, like writing its notation? He's like, no, I'm writing it. And I'm like, but you don't have a guitar, so how can you write it? And he's like, well, because I can hear the melody in my head, and I know what note it is, so I write it down. And I'm like, whatever you hear in your head, can you translate it to your hands on the guitar instantly? He's like, yeah, you can. And I'm like, fuck you, man. I'm like, come on. And like the funny thing was this, his roommate at the time, Dorian, was sitting in the back, or sorry, Donovan, not Dorian. And Donovan was like, I can do that too. And I'm like, I can't. Like, I will sit and I'll hunt all over to find, like, even if I have something in my head that I think is going to sound cool, I'm going to sit and hunt around until
it's a special
I
skill.
find it. Or more likely what's going to happen is I'm going to be not really paying attention to what I'm playing, and all of a sudden I'm going to hear something that I'm like, that sounds and feels cool. What is that? And then I keep playing that riff over and over again, right?
This is why I love watching Ariel's TikToks, because it's like, where did that riff come from?
Yeah.
Like, I just don't know where his library ends, you know?
I don't think those guys.
We're supposed to talk about me here.
Yeah, I don't think it does with guys like that. I think they just.
No, there was another one this morning. I'm just like, he threw in the most outrageous scale melody,
Yep.
and he explained later where it came from. But I was like, that's why you can go watch the man play guitar
Yep.
for an hour and a half.
Those guys, it is scary, like how much they understand exactly what free flows from them too. Like theory wise, how well they understand exactly what they're playing. Like I would have no idea. I would be like, it sounded cool. I'll figure out later what key it's in or what it is. Yeah, but it sounded cool, and that's all that mattered.
And we've all got our own skill sets.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still trying to find mine. So
yeah, yeah, that's an understatement.
constant play.
Okay, so what you were saying about that would be kind of your studio board versus live board, like same thing. Like I don't really understand how to use this pedal. I got it because it sounded really cool. I use one sound from this pedal, one sound from this pedal, one sound from this pedal. So if I actually played live in a touring band, I would have a delay, probably a reverb. I would have a boost of some sort, and probably a phaser pedal and a wah pedal, and a tuner. Everything else,
Yeah, I would definitely get one of the. I'm not sure what the exact term is, but it basically chooses which loops.
oh yeah, I have a MIDI switcher.
Yeah,
Yes.
something like that, like a true bypass MIDI switcher.
Yep.
That, I can't. So if I want to change tones for like a heavy crunch, like for my vanity project,
Yep.
right, I would have to jump on 3 pedals at once. So
Yep.
not going to happen
Yeah,
live.
but that's what we did.
I'm not good at hopscotch.
No.
So
I remember that's what we did like back in the like late 90s, early 2000s. It was like, okay, I got my delay on and my phaser on, and then I got to kick both those off.
you
and
did.
I gotta, what's
You
that?
did. I
Yes.
only had one pedal,
Oh yeah,
and that would be
the channel switcher.
that would be the channel switcher.
Yeah.
With and I don't know if your generation of triple rectifier had that dropout in between when you change channels.
No, I had so I have that generation of triple rectifier now.
So mine was like a 90. Mine was a 93
Okay.
triple with the black aluminum on the front.
Yeah, mine is mine here?
And I'm gonna make an admission to you amp guys.
Yeah.
So when I bought that amp, I was like, cool, what's bias? Because
Oh,
when
yeah.
I change it, the tone changes and I kind of like it.
Yeah. Like,
Oh no, I didn't know you're supposed to put different tubes in.
oh yeah.
Because the manual that came with mine was 3 pages. And it said, basically, if you like go out and play it and turn the knobs and experiment with your tone and enjoy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, great, I'll enjoy. Look, bias switch, great, EL84. Don't know what that is, but that's cool.
Yeah.
And I'm running 6L6s like an idiot and basically frying my tubes.
Yeah.
But
As long as you don't fry your output transformer, who cares?
I didn't do that.
Yeah, I did. My triple rectifier lasted like, I think like 2 shows.
And is that why these guys are so special?
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Because you can't do that.
See, you remember this.
Yes.
It's just like I remembered, don't put your Les Paul on the floor. You remembered, I need something to automatically choke
Yes.
and give a resistance load.
Yes.
To my
exactly.
tube.
I need to.
See, it's brilliance.
My problem. So I don't know if I just had a faulty output transformer on my original triple rectifier, or I had a Marshall cab at the time, like a 1968 cab. So because I couldn't afford the recto cab
Right.
at first, and every show the input jack, it didn't matter what I did, the
Oh.
cable would vibrate out. So we'd be gaffing or duct taping the crap out of it to try to keep it in, and I eventually
Right.
changed my cable so it was a speak-on connector on my 4x12 just
Changes
to make
the
sure.
tone of the cab, though.
What's that? What's that? Oh, it changes the tone of the cab to change the connector? Yeah. Yeah, I didn't notice.
I mean, I've heard different speaker cables definitely sound different, but I don't know about speak-on versus quarter-inch.
Yeah, I've heard that, and I've heard like the Analysis Plus cables, like the $200 patch cables, and how they're more hi-fi. And I've heard them demoed in front of me and can hear the difference.
When
and
we
I'm
were
like,
when we were working on Propaganda on the Victory Lap session, we were down to the speaker cables at that
Really?
point. Yeah, we had a bunch of Dorian's amps there,
Yeah.
and we were narrowing down. I think we had 9 Marshall heads, and we narrowed it down. So Dave Gillis didn't. I mean, he's got his 800, and that's
Yep.
just like that's his tone. Like we didn't audition, but Chris, we narrowed it down eventually to a Friedman. But then we were hearing the difference between like speaker cable A that was like 12 gauge,
yep.
and then a slightly different, longer, option B, and I was convinced I was going to go insane.
I would.
That said, we're talking about like a 2% difference, and
Yeah.
the thing is, every time you hear something loud in the room, your ears are like, they're already changing since the last time you heard it. So did I actually hear the speaker cables change?
Yeah.
Or, yeah. But I did. We did.
I heard. I mean, Bruce Jacobs was showing me the difference between like patch cables with that one day at Quest Musique, and he's like, isn't it amazing you can hear the difference? I'm like, how much is this cable? He's like, it's like $140 for like 15 feet. And I'm like, I'm gonna lose that. I'll stick with the $20 thing that most of the time I can't tell the difference. Like,
Yeah.
if I had never heard that,
I mean, talk about tonal loss. Like, what am I
Yes.
doing here? This is, I'm using like a very light amount of makeup at the end. But honestly, like if I plug straight into clean versus going through all these pedals, it's like slightly different.
Yeah.
Like not necessarily in a bad way. So I don't care if I'm getting the tone that I want through the amp. There could be 60 pedals plugged in. I really don't care.
Well,
But if it's, yeah.
That's one
If
of the
we're missing something,
Yeah.
then we got to figure out what we're missing.
That's one of the favorite lines I ever heard from Sean Tubbs, who works with us. Sean was talking about there's a YouTuber who had done like he had done a demo on I think it was a JHS pedal, JHS Andy Timmons pedal, and he opened it up and was essentially commenting on like, oh, for this price, I would have expected it not to be PCB mount jacks and stuff like that. And Sean was like, I really don't care if there's a hamster in there running its ass off on a wheel. If it sounds good,
Animal cruelty.
Yeah, well, that's all I care.
Let's not do that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yes.
I get your point.
Yeah, like whatever it is inside, as long as it works and it sounds great,
Yep.
you do whatever you got to do. So I like that idea because I think often we, especially as like hobby players, like I'm more of a hobby player now.
Yeah, I'll join you in that round.
Yeah, like for that, I really don't care what it is, and I think we also get like caught up on trying to make things as proper or as good as they can be, and then you spend less time playing.
Oh yeah,
And it'd be, you know what I mean? Like I'm gonna work on fixing everything that's wrong with my board, and then by the time I'm done, I'm like, I'm going to bed because my kids are gonna be up.
I guess maybe there are a couple ways to look at it. On one hand, it's like there's the quest for the holy grail. Like what's
Yeah.
going to give me what's like for studio work? It's like where's the best vocal mic? Where's the best
Yeah.
signal chain? What's the best compressor? Like what's the best guitar? And then there's you can change those things, but at a certain point you're getting like lots of really goods.
Yeah,
But then there's also just the enjoyment of the art of those things. Like you don't go to a car show and just look at one car and go
No.
like, look at that. That's the ultimate car. Everything else is a piece of crap. I'm going to leave. Like, no, I can look at an old Mustang or like look at a Lambo and be like, enjoy those things. I can look at a Rogers kit and like a 68, SG.
Yeah.
Whatever. I each one of them, and it's exciting. And that's, I mean, like for Dan, he loves the story of the guitar.
Oh yes.
I keep my guitar forever.
Yep.
He moves on.
Yeah.
It's just everybody's different. He likes the story and likes to share the story, and then,
Yeah.
and I love that about him.
And
But
and
that's-
I think he's one of those guys that.
sorry if I'm
Yeah,
pissing
if,
you off, Dan.
Yeah, if he's here and listening, I'm gonna make assumptions about you. But
Actually,
I
I
think
don't care.
I think he's one of those
I do.
guys that like a lot of us, he is on the quest for kind of that holy grail. So when he had like it was a 64 Strat that he had for a little while that he let me play for a bit, and he's like, it's cool, but like, I like the telly that I have more. I'm like, cool. He's like, I'm gonna sell this. I'm like, all right.
It's a crisis. It's
Yeah,
a real
I'm-
crisis.
I'm fortunate that I've gotten to the point where like, because we use a lot of these things here, like guys shooting videos or for this, like for Gear and Beer and stuff like that. I don't sell much of anything anymore, and I get away with it because it's part of my job, so I'm not forced to. But I found that like when you're talking about changing pickups and that, like I found that I've just gone back to like I want pretty much all my guitars to be whatever they were stock, like because I want like I just got this here, which is just a stock '87 Fender Strat, and like I had people asking me like, are you gonna change pickups? Are you gonna do anything to it? And I'm like, no, but I will turn the noise gate off. And I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do anything
There you go.
because I don't have anything else that sounds like that. If I want something that sounds more modern, I'll grab a guitar that's more modern.
Yeah. It's great. I'm kind of, I'm a little bit more on the anti-mod these days as well. Like, microphones in the studio are a big thing. Everybody's like, oh, if you take this Apex mic and you add the mod and you do the Jolie mod, and then it'll sound more like a DPA 4020, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, then okay, in that case, it's a more expensive mic. But like, for example, I like my Octavas because they sound like Octavas.
Yeah.
I don't want to make them into like a C451.
Right.
Then I would want to get a C451. Like I don't want to turn a U87 into a U47.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why mod it? Because unless it's like really not fitting the bill, But like, I bring in the microphones thing because we think about this all the time. But like, I don't care if it's a $50 like 55-year-old mic that's been gathering dust, like in some hallway at the concert hall.
Yeah.
I don't care if it does something.
Yeah.
Then it's cool. And that's the same with guitars.
Yeah.
Like I keep old strings on one of my basses, old like round wounds, and because it sounds like it sounds, and I
Yeah.
have no reason to change it into something else.
Yeah.
That would be a mod. If
Yeah.
I put new strings
Yeah.
on, it would be a mod.
Yeah, it's interesting when you get to the point where you can have multiple tools, right? Like I get if, like, for example, when I was playing in that band, I had a Strat actually pretty much identical to this, and I bought that Tom DeLonge Strat. So what I did with my US as a backup, the Tom DeLonge had the
Gorgeous
Seymour Duncan
color.
Invader. So I swapped it, like not on this one, but on the other one that I had, I swapped the bridge pickup and put in an Invader so that it would sound almost as, and if I did break a string, I could swap guitars and it
Right.
would be fairly consistent.
Well, and there's a reason for it, right? That's
Yeah, but I only did that out of necessity that I had 3 guitars and I didn't want to take one of them out to tour anymore. So that was the only reason I did it. Now, I don't tour anywhere, and now what I'm probably am looking for is, like before I wanted one sound. I had a sound that was kind of my sound as that guitar player in that band, and it was like the heavy tones were always the same. You know what I mean? Like you end up, for the most part, having one amp, and you build your clean, your crunch, and your leads out of that.
or unless you're like the Edge and you go through that phase of having 7 amps all on switches.
Yes.
I can't say for better or worse. I mean,
No,
it's cool.
I mean, I do that now. Like that's why we have a ton of different amps that we have here because, like you were saying about the other guitar player in Propagandy, that like he's got a JCM 800 because that's his sound. Well, I have a JCM 800 here that is unbelievable. It doesn't sound like any other 800 I've ever played, and I mean, I still will opt to use the green channel on our amps more than I'm going to use that 800 because this is more in line with what I'm comfortable with and what I normally play.
Yeah.
But do I love to sit down with that or with a Friedman and play? Yeah, of course. And if you're fortunate enough to be able to have, multiple flavors like that or multiple amps to get those flavors, then,
But what's really neat is when you have a player dialed in on a particular amp, right?
Yeah.
And like if I'm watching that pedal show or something, I'm like, that's the sound that I could see. Let's say I wanted that sound.
Yeah.
You go and buy those same pedals and that same amp, and like you're gonna be disappointed like 4 out of 5 times. Because it's not gonna be, it's the fingers of the player,
Yeah.
right? And never mind that every Fender sounds different,
Yeah.
like pretty much. I mean, there's just and same with Gibsons. Like there's so much difference there, but it's in the hands of the players.
I bought my first Les Paul, since you're talking about Gibsons, I bought my first Les Paul in 2006, and I bought a gold top. It was
You're
a traditional.
a late bloomer.
Yes. I mean, it pretty much wasn't until I had started the other business that I have, until I started that and started to make not minimum wage, that all of a sudden and once I stopped touring, once I stopped trying to be in a band, then all of a sudden I could afford the guitars and stuff I wanted. So I started kind of amassing a lot of the stuff that I had wanted. Of course, always thinking, well, I'm gonna get back to playing live at some point, and then life gets busy and you just don't really, or I just really didn't get back to it. But I remember playing. Do you remember Colin Roche from Stereotrap? You did a record with them way back when you were at High North. Guys from Saskatoon.
These are the questions that terrify me.
Oh, you're like,
how long do you think my memory is
yeah.
here?
Okay.
I did record Stereotrap.
Yep, you recorded an EP for them way back.
I'll trust you on Colin.
Nearly 20 years ago. Colin had a black Les Paul Standard, killer guitar. Felt great, sounded great. It was the first time I played a Les Paul. I think that's my guitar that's doing that. I'm not sure.
Because I think I'm muted.
It's me. I just muted myself. So
I'm the responsible one.
I remember playing his, and then I was like, okay, this thing sounds and feels great. And I had a PRS.
So
at the
you
time.
hadn't really played like Les Pauls before that?
Not really.
Okay.
I played a few, but they all, plagued with every other, problem that people complain about with Les Pauls, where they're going out of tune all the time. fat 50s necks that feel terrible.
Speaking of which,
It does have it.
okay, it does.
Yeah.
So can we do a date reveal? Do you guys want to like figure this out? Because I still don't know what year this guitar is. Can we find it out for reals?
Dorian's going to try to see if we can.
Do you want to
it out.
zoom this, or do you want me to tell you?
This Les Paul is one of the nicest Les Pauls I've ever played. I
Wow.
would put it in a short list of like the top 5.
Okay.
So I know you're not going to sell it, but whenever you decide to, I'll see if I can sell a car.
So yeah, do you need anything else, or is the cereal good enough for you? I've never really wanted to know because I either know I've always liked saying it's a 69, but it's totally not. It's probably a 71.
I don't know. I played one. I almost bought one when I was just down in Tennessee.
We're gonna do a date reveal. How about that?
I was looking at one. It wasn't that expensive. It was like under 4,000 US. And what stopped me was the guy refinned the top.
Oh yeah.
So it looked like pretty much a brand new gold top, and I was like, I want it
Right.
to be checked and like.
I think that's about 7 times more than I paid for this one.
Yeah. You pay really?
$700.
That's awesome. Yeah.
You want to hear my story of this?
Yes.
So I was 16 years old, working at a gas station,
Yeah.
and I was saving up money to buy a Les Paul Studio.
Okay.
That was my max budget, and I forget what they went for. I think Les Paul Studios used to be about 900.
Yep.
To
It was under
$950.
$1,000
Yeah.
in the 90s.
This would be like 93,
Okay.
like 92, 93, and I found one. I was on my way to the city. My mother was driving me. I didn't have my license yet.
Yeah.
And on the way, we used to have. Do you remember Buy Sell magazine?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, no Kijiji. This
Yep.
is the old school, like no Facebook Marketplace.
Yep.
I forgot it at home with the address where I was supposed to go. So picked one up at 7-Eleven
Yep.
on the way to the city, and it was the new version, and the guitar was not in there. So I was kind of shook.
Yeah.
Thought I'd wasted the trip, and then this picture of this was in there. Or actually, no, it wasn't even a picture. It was just the
That's
text.
a description.
Yeah. Les Paul Gold Top 700 or best offer. And I'm like, is this for reals? And I'm like, Mom, drive me to this person's house. So went to this random person's house. Nobody's there. I sat on the porch, and I just like, we have to wait for it because. And this person came home from work, and I said, yeah, are you selling a Les Paul? And I went in, and I was looking at it, and I was just like jaw dropped.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't believe I'm not only not going home with the studio, but I might be going home with this thing.
Yeah.
And and I'm like, yeah, it's pretty cracked. Oh
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. Like
I was
mean,
smart enough at 16 to embellish that, and
Yeah.
I'm like, oh shoot. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
It's beat up.
but I mean, it is a nice guitar.
It's it's got the little humbuckers though, which aren't as good as that's why they moved to the new full size ones.
Because the other ones have so much more personality.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but yeah, that's my story. And then my story is driving home with my mom, just stoked out of my mind. I couldn't play the guitar because I had to go to work. So she
Oh.
drops me off at the gas station, and I'm working my shift just like, I want to get home. I want to play
Yeah.
my guitar. And in that shift, this guy is fueling his car, or I'm fueling this guy's car. When the license plate, it's like an old Caprice
Yeah.
or something, and the license plate opens up in the
Yeah.
back, and the gas goes in the back.
Yeah.
And this older fellow drives forward. Like he's driving forward with the gas
Really?
plugged into his car, and I'm like, stop, like stop. And then it tensioned out and
Yep.
snapped, and I can't even believe it, but it sprayed right across my face.
Jeez.
Yeah, as I was trying to get him to stop his car, the thing sprayed across my face, and I just crumpled onto the concrete. Because if you've ever had fossil fuels in your eyes,
Yes.
it's not great.
It's awful.
And straight to the hospital. Got driven to the hospital. Eye patches. So all night I'm playing this guitar with eye patches. all
That's
night.
crazy.
It was great.
They need the last 3 digits on your serial number there to.
Okay, 185753.
Um,
And the only thing there's 2 things. There's this,
oh yeah.
which I shattered at some point,
Yep.
and then there's the non-stock,
Yeah. Machine heads.
Schallers.
Yeah. which probably helped it stay in tune substantially better than what was on there.
This thing always stayed in tune great, and that's why.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I hate those old tuners.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
I didn't get a chance to buy it, but I think I've probably told this story on the stream before. When I was I think 18 at the time. I was living in Carmen and working at a small music store, and this guy,
Carmen had a music store.
yeah,
Wow.
tiny music store called the Carmen Music Academy. And
How big is Carmen? Carmen can't be more than.
3,000,
Oh, are you serious? Wow.
2,500, 3,000 maybe.
Okay.
It's small.
Maybe I've never driven all the way through.
All the
Or
way
are you
through.
talking about like 3,000 people in the neighboring 50 miles?
Yes.
Like the school
No.
catchment is 50,000. Is that what you're saying?
No, 3,000.
3,000. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah. Did I say 50,000?
yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
good.
No, it's tiny. It is not Steinbach. You know.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Steinbach was 10
Yeah.
when I lived there. Now it's, I don't know, 30.
Yeah. It with its tiny music. It was more
What
like
was it called?
It was called the Carmen Music Academy. It was more like
Fitting.
teaching. So I was working there when I was 18, and this old guy comes in with his son.
Was it near Sills?
No, it was near like the Banks
Hmm.
downtown.
Sills is a, soft ice cream
Yeah,
summer stand.
used to be great for burgers. Now
Yeah.
it's not great for burgers. So, but it is the staple thing.
Okay,
in
sorry
Harvard.
to.
Yes. Anyway, guy comes in with his son. He's in his 80s, and he says he wants me to set up his guitar, restring it for him. And it's in a Gibson case, but it was in one of those like older like violin style molded black plastic, like from
Yep.
the 70s.
Oh, black plastic. Okay.
Yeah. Almost like it would have been like kind of like pre-road case style cases. Like, yeah.
I'm trying to think of, because this is not my original case. My original
Right.
case was, it was shaped like it. It's probably, it had the rounded,
Oh,
like it
okay.
was rounded on this part,
Oh, weird.
and it was not formed like the treble rhythm button had like popped through
Oh, okay.
from getting jostled around.
Yeah.
This had popped through.
This case was like heavy duty, almost like it could have been a flight case.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, guy opens it up, and I looked at it, and it's a gold top Les Paul, and it's got a trapeze bridge. So I'm like, this is like early 50s. And it turned out, I asked, like as soon as I looked at it, I'm like, what year is it? And he's like, I bought it brand new in 1952. Oof. And it was one of the coolest guitars. I mean, it wouldn't, like, because it had the trapeze bridge instead of a stop tail, like, it was really difficult to keep in tune. It was not great, but it was the first time I tried to buy an expensive guitar, because I was like, did you want to sell it? Like, he couldn't play anymore.
Was he offering?
No, I think he just knew what he had and wanted to come talk to somebody and show somebody that would think it's cool.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah. So he let me, he asked me to set it up. So I set it up, and I called him to tell him it's done. He's like, why don't you just keep it for a little bit? So I had it for like a week, and I finally was like, hey man, I'm like, we have an alarm here, but like if anyone breaks in and steals this, like it's irreplaceable. So like, if you want to sell it, I'll go get a loan, and I'll give you $5,000 for it in the 90s. But like, yeah, he was like, no, I don't want to sell it.
Did you offer him 5?
Yeah. Which was more than my car was worth at the time. And,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
it's an investment.
Yep. But so I don't know what's happened with that guitar now. But it was same thing. It was like checked like that. It was cool, but like super microphonic, right? Like because it was
So
the first year
also
of
soap bars at that point, or
Yeah.
were they like the plastic ones with the screw holes?
No, I'm pretty sure it was soap bars.
Okay.
Like, yeah, it was.
I don't know.
It was the first year of the
I'm
Les
not
Paul.
even a nerd enough to know all the variations. So-
I don't either. I just know that like 52s are not like the like 50, 58, 59, 60 bursts are the like holy grail guitars. The early 50s ones, like a lot of people do like conversions on them, so they'll remove the trapeze bridge, have a stop tail mounted, and
Right.
like make it somewhat playable. Because yeah, it wasn't that playable, but
like hard to intonate too.
yes,
Yeah.
very. But a cool guitar nonetheless, right? Like, and I said like I'm not really gonna play it. I'm gonna probably hang it on a wall and keep it as an investment for for down the line. But I have no idea where that guitar is now. Like,
I mean,
could be-
Gibson's Gibson's interesting. Like, there's definitely, like, I had to play with the saddles a lot.
Yep.
This one works, but I've played a couple that I couldn't intonate.
Yep.
Where actually, like, the only thing I can figure out is that the actual bridge was too far either forward or back.
Yep.
And that's just, I don't know. That's like bad manufacturing years, or like interns making the guitar. I don't know.
Did you figure it out? No.
Once it gets in those years, it's kind of dicey.
Huh?
Yeah. But if you open the back, you might be able to find it on the pots.
Oh.
I mean, the pots might help.
Yeah.
I can't believe they're still smooth.
Yeah.
Like I've never even put fader lube in here
No.
or anything. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's a killer guitar.
Okay, there's a little scratch.
Anthony, who's watching there, like he's like, let's talk about this Les Paul Deluxe there. We are Anthony. Come on now. Yeah.
What do you want to
Gradient
know?
Blue says, how was working with Mobina Galore?
Oh, awesome.
Might be a bit different as their duo, and I supported them years ago with my band in Germany. Lovely, heartwarming persons.
Yeah, great people.
I have never met. Is it Jenny?
Jenna.
Jenna.
Yeah, Jenna and Marcia.
Yeah, I haven't met her, but Dan keeps talking to me about her and took an
Yeah.
amp for them to go check out from us, and I was like, have them come down here anytime.
I'd say one of the interesting things that we did directive-wise was like we did 2 records where there was no bass.
Okay.
It's just one guitar.
Okay.
And so what they really wanted was like to sound as close to like to have a record that was what they would do live exactly.
Right.
And with no bass player, like you're so used to having that lower octave layered. So I mean, White Stripes,
Yep.
there's things going on there too, right? And it does a thing, but trying to get like a full but unique guitar sound that's Jenna's tone,
Yep.
not like my tone or someone else's tone, or like this amp is better. I think that's one thing for me is like I really care about the personalities. When people have something that they're like, I love this amp and this
Yep.
is my guitar and this is how I sound. Like I wanna bring that out.
Yep.
Like there's always ways that you could say, well, maybe if you went this way or that way, like you'd have like a slightly better tone or something.
Yeah,
you know,
a
you
little
can
more
always argue
polished.
these things,
Yeah.
but it would be different then.
Yeah.
Like, should Motorhead sound like Metallica? Like,
Right.
it's different tones. So you're gonna like this about that, and you're gonna like that. And so I think that's always been important to have, like, let people have their signature and not take that away.
Yeah. Well, and I 100% agree, because I think that comes down to what you were alluding to a little bit about your hands, right? Like I can play your rig, I'm going to sound like me through your rig.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you can play mine, and you're going to sound like you playing my amp, right?
Yeah.
So, like I've seen
I was
lots.
playing your amp.
What's that?
I was playing
Yes.
your amp.
Yeah. Like I've seen lots of YouTubers that have.
Is this an
done-
amp or is this a living beast? Like this is.
It is pretty.
Like, was this a request or was this?
Oh yeah.
is it
So we
custom?
have
Yeah.
Have you seen our online amp designer thing?
I actually have not.
So you can go on either of our web stores, and you
Okay.
can like customize like the faceplate, the knobs, the
Oh, yeah.
Tolex on the front plate, the Tolex, the handle color.
I'm stealing the zebra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's
I'm
guys.
so jazzed about that.
Yeah. And one of the things that like I wanted to do, as soon as I saw like what Tolexes were all available to us, I had kind of said like, yeah, it's a little bit more money to have like way more inventory, but I felt like it was important for us to be able to have like the ability for people to do a decent amount of customizations. Because if you're going to spend like $3,000 to $4,000 on something, you might as well be able to get something that's not just standard black.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because a lot of people, that's going to be their only amp for a while. Whether or not it's their forever amp or not,
Yeah.
it's going to be, this is the thing that I use day in, day out for years.
Yeah.
So it might as well be something that you're really into. And I had always liked whenever I'd see something like even back to like the purple and red Marshalls and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Where you're like, this is different than your standard
exactly.
black, right?
Well, and that's just, I mean, that's a theme that's people want to be able to skin their avatar.
Yep.
you want your own avatar. Like that's representing me now. So
Yeah.
having that option, like that's just makes 100% sense.
Yeah. So I literally went through like CE or not CE.
Because if you don't
K-Line.
like the color, you don't like
Yeah.
the car.
Yeah.
We had a wine colored Subaru
Yep.
Outback, and my wife hates that color. And she was like, I will never have a car that color.
Yeah.
And then this one came up to purchase, and I'm like, come on, it's the deal.
Yeah.
So I pushed her into buying it, and she hated it the whole time.
Yeah.
And frankly, I hated it too. But like, I was like, well, it's a Subaru. So to me, the practical side is, I don't care what color it is. It's what we needed at the time.
Yeah.
But now I'm like a little bit more, okay, well, maybe color does matter. You
Yeah.
know?
Well, I can tell you a funny story about that.
If you hate it,
So, the generator 740 that's sitting up there, that's like that Carolina blue, like
Yeah.
the light blue colored one. So
It's a winner.
We had that exact same amp in black in Nashville at a place called Soundcheck, which is like there's a bunch of rehearsal rooms and a bunch of big tourists store a lot of their stuff there. Like they've got lockers for like Toby Keith will store a bunch of his.
so
gear there.
same white front.
No. So what I had in Nashville looked more like that generator 120. Like it was just black with black, and I had it in their rental department where, like, you could go if you were rehearsing for the day and go to the rental department and be like, you know what, I want to try something different, and they would typically for free just be like, hey, you know what, take this thing out and check it out. So I had that amp sitting there in black for a year and a half, and not once did it get checked out. All we did was we changed it for one that was, instead of that blue, it was seafoam green. Gone all the time. As soon as we sent it there. And the guy that was helping us with artist relations out of Nashville at the time that helped hook that up, he used to work for like Fender Gretsch, and he was working for Taylor Guitars at the time. He said, you know, one of the most important lessons I learned was people hear with their eyes first. He's like, they'll decide whether or not they like that and whether or not it sounds good based off of how it looks. And if it doesn't look cool. And we actually saw this, which, I mean, some of you guys have probably heard me tell this story, but we saw a massive increase. And actually, I can tell a funny
So
story.
this was from that color? No, or it was a seafoam one?
It was seafoam.
I can't actually
So it would be kind of the
tell.
same.
Yeah.
Like the seafoam is like,
Yeah.
it's just the green tinge of that.
Yeah. Oh, is that what the difference is? Because I'm
know what-
not great with colors, but
You
I
know-
love seafoam.
You know what's funny? Actually, I forgot about this until I just started telling the story. When I had that prototype or that one of those first amps, I brought it to you.
Yep.
And when I came to talk to you about it, the first things that you started telling me was, I don't like the font. The geometry is all off. You have got this kind of ovally shape here and then this weird
listen
whatever
to me
shape.
trying to play
And-
designer.
And you're like, and it just, yeah. And he's like, and you said, and the other thing you said that stuck with me, and he's like, I would also never play this amp live because it lights up like a Christmas tree. And I was like, okay.
If you need to punch me,
No,
you
I
can.
was like, well, I was kind of wondering what you thought about how it sounded, and you're like, oh, it sounds great. Like,
Yeah.
And that was it. But it was a huge lesson for me because when I came back, Dan was like, what did John Paul say? I'm like, a lot about how it looked. And then he said, if you guys were trying to build something that I think you said, and this was like 7 years ago probably.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. I think you said if you were trying to build a better rectifier, you succeeded. And I'm like, well, that wasn't really what he was trying to do, but I'll take that because I think that, full disclosure, I think
Yeah.
that the red channel is a better rectifier.
Well,
Like, I
yeah,
think-
and it basically handles what you were talking about with the fluffy low end.
Yeah.
So with my rectifier, that was the eternal problem.
Yeah.
People would stick a condenser mic on it, and it would be, the tone wouldn't like display forward.
Yeah.
It would kind of like slither forward. Like it didn't have the power.
Yep.
And I think the engineers we worked with, like on our early recordings, didn't really understand like high pass.
Okay.
Because that helps, but you're still
Yeah.
carving a lot of wind.
Yeah.
And it'd be better if it just wasn't as windy. So,
Yeah.
and that's like, oh, there you go. Translates.
I also found with, like, when I played my...
I mean, this is the perennial de-winder.
Yep.
And actually, we did some of the Comeback Kid tracking on Jeremy's rectifier, but he used a Friedman pedal into it, which was really strange. Because
Okay.
on its own, it was not just an overdrive, it was very distorted.
Yep.
But when you played it into the rectifier, it totally tamed it.
You can do
And
that.
it didn't sound more distorted. I'm still wrapping my brain around how that worked, because it wouldn't work in any other configuration, I don't think.
Sam was doing tests with that with my. I now have a dual rectifier and a triple rectifier from the '90s.
Okay.
That I've since collected, and Sam was testing using our G2 pedal to do that exact same thing because that's what people use tube screamers for.
Right.
And while the G2 isn't voiced anything like a tube screamer, we still wanted to see like could you use it as a boost or as something to tighten up, an amp
Yeah.
that's traditionally got a pretty flubby low end. And yeah, it works. But that concept back when I was playing live was completely foreign. Like the idea of putting an overdrive pedal in front of your rectifier was like, why?
Yeah,
Like,
even, can I just throw this on here?
yeah.
It's hard to tell through the in-ears exactly. I don't know if we can hear like fluff online, but. I like the openness of it,
Yep.
but it just depends what the goal is with that track. Like
Yep.
if it's supposed to be like upper muscly, or if it's, it'll get lost under a lot of kick drums, for example, if you don't trim it.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that was the thing that I never, again, when I was playing, sound check wherever live, everything sounds great, feels great. As soon as the bass player kicks in, I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
why does
Yeah.
everything it just disappears and it sounds terrible? You know what I mean? But
Okay, so
yeah.
so the red
So,
channel.
what I was saying about the people hearing with their eyes, when we changed to, the band Dolphin Striker? You work with them, like Chris Craker? Chris designed this logo for us years ago, and when we changed to this logo, I'm not kidding, our amp sales tripled from that Ovo logo.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So whether it's not,
I mean,
like,
I'm the same way. I fully admit that. When I was in college, I would choose one book over the other because I like the cover better.
Yeah.
I'm that vain.
Yeah.
I completely admit that. And I mean, that's marketing.
Yep.
It's got to have a visual package.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that, it took me a long time to realize that because I was like, well, who cares what it looks like? As long as it doesn't look cheap or like crap, right? Like as long as it appears well built and isn't going to fall apart, like you should just care about how it sounds. But yeah, it took me a little while to learn that lesson.
But I mean,
and then
like-
we hired Dorian, and now everything looks awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy's all right.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing.
But take this little fuzz Roche's here, this Afterlife pedal, which is basically it's kind of like a very simple reverb. Where's my sound? Am I plugged in?
Volume pedal.
I don't know.
You're there, but it's,
there we
it's
go.
quiet.
Super grainy.
Yep.
And then it does this thing where it feeds back into itself. But it looks so awesome. It sounds really good. It only does one thing.
Yep.
Well, two things. But it sounds really good. But if this was just in a generic silver box,
Yeah.
I would think it doesn't sound good. But I see the Muerto skulls and stuff, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah. Oh, I bought.
buy you because you look nice and you do sound good.
I bought an overdrive pedal, or I don't know if it's considered an overdrive or distortion pedal from Mythos Pedals out of Nashville. They did a couple of Joey's signature pedals, but I bought one because they had one that was a signature Nashville hot chicken pedal. And my favorite places to go eat when I'm in Nashville are hot chicken places. I'm like, I have to have the hot chicken pedal. This pedal sounds awesome, but I only bought it because of how it looked.
Right.
That's the only reason.
So, yeah, radial,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Functional.
Very.
Radial makes very functional equipment.
Yes.
But I do not resonate with the aesthetics.
No, the tone bone text on. Can you show my board? The tone bone text on here just looks awful. And I mean, it's clean, right? It's
clean.
Design-wise, it's very
I
clean.
don't know who that's marketed to. But very functional. right?
Yeah.
And I mean, look, I'm not trying to diss on Radial. I just think they should hire an artist to join their designer.
Well, that is the other thing I will say about a lot.
I'm
of
being nice.
companies.
This is a great fucking company.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that. I mean, it took us till like, so like, there's a lot of stuff that the design of it is the last thought, because when it comes to electronics, everything is going to be about like, does it sound right? Is it working right? Like,
Well,
know what I mean?
that's the groundwork, right?
Yeah.
Or you could just you could market bad product and it might last.
Do you guys want to
for a
hear a
while.
little secret? So you guys should all be here for next week. We told you about that. There's something new coming next week. So I'll show you it today. I won't show you guys it, but you guys should be here next week because there's gonna be something new and something fun, and some people, like some other people here. So it's gonna be fun. But I can't
Are
wait.
you getting
for,
into guitars?
What's that?
Are you getting into guitars? Rad
No,
guitars.
no. I've thought about that, but I,
Custom
like,
shop cars?
that's real money. Like that's
Do you have a V8 pedal where you press it and it sounds like you're starting a big old V8?
Dorian, make notes. Yeah,
So it's like this one feeds back, right? But you could have the V8 pedal.
that'd be awesome. I will say this: one of the things that's changed in our design processes now is, like, normally what happens is I talk to artists or just any players, artists, whatever you want to call them, whether they're hobbyists or whether they're full-time players, and I get an idea for what people feel is missing in the market, where are their holes, where are there things that we could have something that's kind of niche, and then we'll talk about it internally with, you know, on our sales and marketing calls. We'll talk about it with everybody here to be like, hey, what do you guys think? Because all of us that are on those calls, we're all players, right? And then I'll go talk with Dan, or we'll talk with Dan and be like, okay, so we're thinking about this. We see where we could really have a chance to stand out in the market. The way that the product that's coming out, or the next product, or I shouldn't say the next product, the next few products that are coming out, we actually have Dorian help with the layouts before Dan designs the circuits.
Colors influence tone.
Not colors, knob placements, everything.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Pentagrams.
Yeah, well, that's what he's going for. Dorian doesn't want to talk. He just sees the mic being pointed at him. He's like, I'm not saying anything. So yeah, it's Andy Berger, is Rev the new Friedman? No, Friedman's Friedman. Like, there's no one that's the new anything, in my opinion. I think that, well, I mean, I have a little bit of everything, so I like that. Yeah, I love Friedman's stuff. Like, they do something so different than what we do, and so does pretty much everybody. So.
You know, it's very interesting though. Like on Props record on Victory Lap,
Yeah.
we basically had Friedman versus 800.
Yep.
Right? David 800, Chris Friedman. Both of those tones were complementary,
Yep.
and both of those tones totally stood on their own.
Yep.
But I swapped them
Yep.
into the other rigs,
Yep.
completely falls apart. It's just that they don't resonate with each player the same way. Kind of
Yeah.
like what we were talking about before. So like, I actually don't like the way the Friedman head feels for me.
Is it too squishy?
It just doesn't bark quite the way I'd like
Right.
for me. But I'm not saying I don't like it when someone else plays through it.
Right.
But David playing through it, it didn't display the way he digs into his SG.
Yep. Oh, I understand
So-
that completely, because the way that, to me, at least on you guys are using the BE 100?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah. The way that the BE feels to me is like, it feels like the most oversaturated 800 I've ever played. Or like a cross between an 800 and a JMP that's like crazily saturated. And also with a lot more bottom end, right? So it feels really big. So to me, I like that sound, but if you wanted whatever you were playing to be really tight, I wouldn't be able to do it, because I would use those tones more like in the like I'd be getting more into the, but it's not that tight. It's gonna have way more sag. Where an 800 is going to feel way thinner to
Yeah,
be.
I mean, we did boost it for sure.
The 800 or the Friedman?
The Friedman.
Really?
Out front.
To try to tighten it?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah, for sure.
Interesting.
So just like, lower gain on the Friedman, and it doesn't need, we didn't use a ton of gain. I think that's the thing is, if you go too far in gain land, it will. It was the same with the boogies.
Yep.
Yeah. Like for when I was in the Undecided, playing punk rock through the boogie, through the triple rec, I would play, I forget where my gain was at, as far as the clockwise position, but somewhere around 930.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure it was really low because Brent McRae.
Yeah.
So Brent would always tell me whenever I set mine up, he's like, JP has his set up like this. This is what you need to do. I'm like, mine's the 3-channel. JP's is the 2-channel. It's not
Punch
gonna be
'em.
the same. But yeah. Yeah.
Everybody's different.
Yeah. But
But Jeremy from Comeback Kid plays with, he plays with a lot more gain.
Yeah.
And I think, it sounds right for him. When he plays it too light, it just doesn't display.
Yep.
I think it's such an emotional, it's almost like when you feel that wall the right
Yep.
way, it doesn't matter where that gain's at, if it's in the right place.
Yep.
But if there's too much, you're like, I'm not feeling it. So
Yeah, because that's where amps start to get fizzy to me, is when there's too much gain, is it starts to sound or feel like fizzy. And your
like
pick
fizzy.
attack, your pick attack makes such a massive difference.
but if you're in Cannibal Corpse,
yeah, then it doesn't matter. Yeah.
you need fizz. Speaking of fizz,
Yeah. I have no idea what the Poo Ninja is saying there. The JJ is even more saturated than the BE. Yeah, you know what's weird about that is I've played 2 JJs. Before I got my BE, I played 2 JJs and I played 2 BEs. I played a JJ and a BE together at the LA
yours was
Amp
the
Show.
BE? Yeah.
And then I played the same things at a Guitar Center the same weekend in California. And at the Guitar Show, I preferred the JJ, and at Guitar Center, I preferred the BE. So
It could have been the room, right?
Could be.
It could be the room.
could be the room, could be tubes, could be bias, could be a whole lot of things.
I'll bet you your facade location here, with this wall, sound, the low frequencies go right through that.
Yep.
So this is actually, this would be, if we were cranking the cabs,
Yep.
this would be a good sounding, really good sounding space. This is actually what the concert hall needs
Yeah.
in behind the orchestra, because they don't have it.
That is Stobie's design to make sure that it sounds
Right?
proper and it doesn't bounce everywhere. Yeah. Even though we never mic anything up in here anyway, but you should have heard this place before we did the curtain
yeah.
treatment in that.
Oh yeah, it sounded awful in here before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty
So
pretty
the
terrible.
Winnipeg Concert Hall, the area where the orchestra plays, is effectively this warehouse with nothing in it.
Right.
It's a concrete box.
Yeah.
I was recording the symphony there a couple years ago, and I was all jazzed up to oh yeah, finally recording the symphony live.
Yep.
So I'm gonna go with the classic decatry of Omnis, and so that's 3 Omni mics placed over the conductor's head.
Yep.
And I was all jazzed about that, and when I'm listening back in headphones, I'm like, this is not good.
Yeah.
This is not what I want to hear. And the reason is because it's lacking in the reflections of
Yep.
having a wall behind the orchestra.
Yeah.
So I ended up using basically condenser mics pointing in from the sides. My outrigger mics became my main mics in the mix, and that's just, see, you need to have walls,
Yep.
but that's the hard thing. You're going to test an amp out, and you're
Yep.
trying it in this room, and it's this size.
Yep.
And you're like, this sounds great, and then you take it in a different room, and it falls apart.
Yeah.
So,
and you
but
there's-
with 2 notes,
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's the
plug your
reason why-
headphones in, man.
Exactly. That's why when you come to our NAMM booth, you'll be more than fine. So just swing on by, whatever booth number we are, 5,000 something, and yeah, plug in with headphones. Yeah, I mean,
you're number 1 in my books.
oh, thank you. That was cute. It also depends on who's dialing the amp in, right? When I was at the LA Amp Show, Phil X had just been in playing, and then I got to come in and play right after Phil. So I don't know if Phil dialed his own tones, or if Dave was dialing them or who was dialing them. I just remember walking in being like, holy shit, this sounds and feels amazing. I'm like, this is how I want every Marshall to feel. So, but that to me is the big difference between, like, the big difference between Friedman and Marshall for me is, like, Friedman's feel how I want Marshalls to feel. Because that's most of the time that I play Marshalls, I find they're stiff. Yeah.
We have a JMP that's got the, I don't know, is it a bias knob? It changes the relationship of the input and output, like
Okay.
gains. And when you twist those, like, if you turn down your output and you boost into the input, you can make it almost sound like you're if anybody used the Devilock plugin from Sound Toys, it does that. And it's like, you can make it so disgusting and unplayable, but it's got an amazing range just by adding that extra circuit to it. You can play it quiet, believe it or not, and,
Right.
and enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
But
I don't know, like, most of my Marshalls have been modded somehow. Like, this is a...
I thought we didn't like mods. Wait a second. I'm gonna take
Yeah.
back my earlier comment.
Yeah, on guitars.
Mods are awesome.
Yeah, amplifiers, it's totally
Right,
fine.
right,
Guitars is where it's horrible. That 76 JMP.
Well, it's got a black
50 watt.
knob on it.
Yes.
And what is it called? Arsh? It's an arse.
Yeah.
Arsel.
Larsh. The Larsh. The Larshel.
So I have a modified one. Mine is a Marsnell.
Nice.
Yeah, no H. The H is broken off. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
We also have, do you know, where's the 800? Is it here? Dan took it home. Yeah. Yeah.
He's
Dan's-
channeling his 800 into the next product.
I don't know how much I can talk about. It's not a Marshall style amp for anybody who's wondering.
Talk about it
that.
next week.
No. I'll say this. We had somebody ask us if we could
Output
get...
on bottom.
Yeah, I don't know what that means. We had somebody ask us if we could get kind of specific style tones and build them into a pedal. So I think he was wanting to see, like, what is it that they like about... Like, they like 800s.
Right.
And he was like, what is it that they like about 800s? So he just wanted... He's never been a Marshall fan. So I said, like, of all of my amps, I'm like, take the 800 that I have, because it's... I'm sure it's been modded because it saturates... It doesn't feel thin at all. So I said, like, take my 800 home and play with it, and you'll get what people like about good Marshalls. So, yeah.
My studio approach is kind of like, so I have a bunch of amps lying around, and then I kind of just think maybe these would be the best options, because it's weird actually. Like, I haven't had my own tone in like 18 years. Right? Because when I stopped playing in a band, I'm like, why would I need? I'm not doing it anymore. I don't need to have like my tone.
Yeah.
So I'm actually having so much fun right now because my old drummer, Steve, like, we're getting together and gonna do this vanity project.
Yep.
And so I'm like, that was one of my reasons for picking this Fuzz Roche's Lil fella up here, is kind of in a quest. This is the first time I've been on a quest for the Holy Grail in like
Right.
18 years. Usually I go, what do we need to do? Like, I don't care what it says on the amp. I know each one has a different range.
Yep.
Like, I might pull out this little 20-watt Garnet for if I think like it's going to be kind of a brown kind of sounding like light gain, but then we can manipulate it with this. I'm not thinking of like, I'm not coming to it as a guitar player. I'm
Right.
coming to it as, I'm going to turn the knobs wherever I want.
Yeah.
And I will put away that 800 if it's not getting me what I want. Like,
Right.
right now, I don't even care. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I don't have any attachment to any of those amps.
Right.
I do. I mean, I love them, but
Yeah.
but like, I don't care which one gets used. And I'll use a plugin.
Yep.
If I can't get what I want out of real amps, then I won't.
Yep.
But so I go on ideas. I just look at them in the studio as tools.
Yep.
But now that I'm kind of like playing guitar again,
Yep.
more. Now I'm looking at it as like, I want to have kind of my tone, and I'm kind of like, I've got better tone. Well, I'm developing a better tone than I ever had.
Well, your ears
Like
are
back-
going to have progressed a lot. Like,
Yeah,
that's
like,
one of the things that...
Lost all my high end, can't hear anything. No, I'm just kidding.
like I
I've
found
slowed down a
that,
bit.
like, the difference between what I thought was really great when I was playing through rectifiers, and nothing against the rectifiers, I still have a few. I still love Mesa Boogie stuff. the difference between what I thought was really great in the early 2000s to what I think is great now has been like heavily influenced by being able to sit and have guys like Dan or other people with insane ears dial in tones and see like how things sound while I'm playing. Because I don't like that's how when it used to be just Dan and I going to shows. I mean, Dan would be sorry, Dan, if you're offended, but like I'm a better guitar player than Dan is. So Dan will always say,
I
"Okay,
won't
you
tell
play.
him.
I'll dial it in while you play," and then that's what we'll set as
Right.
like stock setting for when somebody walks up. And he'll often just be wanting to listen too, that he can just hear how something's reacting. So he'll just tell me to sit and play. So I'll sit and play whatever riffs, right? And hearing how he dials things, it started to help me develop, more of what I liked hearing and kind of understand like, okay, what I might have thought was that I got to turn mids down and bring treble up because I thought there was a specific type of high is what I wanted. It actually wasn't that. I need to roll the treble back, put the cut switch on, and pull the mid up, and that's what actually sounds better.
Right.
So having other people dial things for you, I think, at least for me, I would say my taste and what I find as my tone has kind of gotten better and better and better over time.
And also everybody's.
Yes.
Because like think about what amps, like what was available. When I went,
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm in a punk rock band in 1993. I want to have a great sounding rig. I have an 80s Super Twin,
Yep.
like probably the worst amp that Fender ever made, like sonically. 150, no, was that 150 or 180 watts? It had 6L6s. This thing was
So
a
heavy.
relic. And,
Yeah.
and like I thought when I was a kid, I'm like, it's so loud. And I was trying it in the music store. But it's a Fender.
Yep.
So I bought it. And it had no sustain. It did not have good natural harmonics. And like this amp, do you know which ones I'm talking? Like it had black Tolex, it had the cream,
Yep.
like this, whatever
Yep,
this
the
is. It
binding.
had that around there. And it had like this weird boost knob, and it was so janky. And I eventually realized this thing was a piece of junk. And then I got a Mesa Boogie Studio preamp.
Yep.
Remember these tube studio preamps? But in this quest for tone, I could never quite find it. Like I think I was there,
Yep.
but I just don't struggle with that anymore. And we're exposed to so many great amp companies. I mean, Rev, like so many different companies and so much quality. And you can just be like, okay, Soldanos are like this, and
Yep.
like it's incredible. And it's, I mean, look at musicians. Like look at the amount of TikTok musicians that would just destroy like almost every 80s guitar player.
Oh yes.
Like there's like 12-year-olds that, I might as well just put it down.
Yep.
But it's like the exponential growth of like also discerningness to tone
Yep.
is incredible.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Well, this is why, I struggle with when I see people kind of do expose things on. They think that I shouldn't say we, but collectively we as manufacturers, not just Rev, that we're paying YouTubers to say that our stuff is great, right? Because if you get a positive review, people come out and they immediately want to think that, wow, you bought and paid for that. And you know what? We don't get to buy their opinion, but absolutely people charge fees to produce a video. So if you want to be on a
for
channel,
sure.
there are select channels like That Pedal Show doesn't charge for them, but That Pedal Show also, I don't think has ever done any of the G Series pedals. Because
yeah.
if it's not something that is specifically something that Mick and Dan would use on a regular basis, or that a tone they would gravitate towards, which definitely the red and the purple chip pedals, they're not going to play anything that high gain, right? So it won't end up on there, even if we send it to them.
Right.
So
and they're definitely focusing on I guess a bit of a different market.
for sure.
I mean, you cross over into that too.
Yeah. So the point I wanted to make here, though, is that I saw a couple manufacturers get attacked where people are saying like, "Oh yeah, this pedal's actually a piece of shit," but they just paid these YouTubers off and paid for
Right.
this, and I'm like, I have played gear at like things like the Dallas Guitar Show that like they're not amplifiers or pedals that I would ever want to use. But legitimately to those designers, those people don't set out to build something that they think is just okay or sucks. This is the equivalent. This is their art. This is what they have built. And it is all subjective. Every tone on
Yeah.
your board and on my board is subjective.
I feel like I'm at like Sunday morning of like truth
yeah,
here, man.
Like, so to me, it gets
Guitar
really
church.
It just gets really frustrating to see
Yeah.
people who can't understand that. And when we first started doing these,
DOD, Thrashmaster.
yeah, well, I have the DoD Hard Rock Distortion. That was my first distortion pedal.
It was. Do you remember the Thrashmaster? It was pink, hot pink.
Yep.
That was my first distortion pedal with my Kramer.
Yep. Or the grunge pedal. I always wanted the grunge pedal.
I wish
but
I had that back.
Yeah.
I hate selling stuff and then wondering if I'd kept it.
I rebought I had the DoD stereo chorus and the DoD.
That's why you keep all your amps, right?
Yeah. The Hard Rock Distortion and the stereo chorus, and I've been slowly buying back all the stuff I have.
Here, what's this
Yeah,
question?
Anthony, I'm curious what JP's thoughts on Fishman's and Gibson SG that Jeremy uses for his main guitar and Comeback Kid. He wants to know what you think of the Fishman's, mainly.
Yeah, no, like for him, it projects
Yep.
in a certain way. I mean, those guys are set up with Evertune bridges, and
Right.
like we know that their rigs each sound good. So like
Yep.
we're not even bothering to we're not auditioning 10 guitars.
Right.
Because it's a comfort level thing, and it's also like we know what those guitars sound like. And we'll grab other guitars for like other lead tones and things. But so for Jeremy, I mean, he's been working on. He's very picky about his tone.
Okay.
He should probably do a rig rundown sometime. He'd say like, oh, I'm not worthy or something. But no,
Yep.
he's been working on his shit for years, and he's definitely got something that works for him. When I play his guitar, I feel like it's like for me, it's a little oversaturated.
Right.
But that's just my playing style.
Yep.
Right?
I think again that's Anthony. Like my opinion, like I picked up this guitar because I put Fishman the classics in this.
So
And,
those
like,
are the Fishmans.
Yeah. So there's different types of Fishmans. So there's moderns, there's classics.
Yeah,
there's,
and I should say like, in response to the Fishmans thing, like I've never had Fishmans on a guitar of mine, so I really don't have that much experience. So because every player is so different, when Jeremy comes in with a certain guitar, like if we like what it's doing,
Yeah.
then I'm not like thinking about grabbing him something else or switching pickups or.
Yep.
And I'll say like one of the things I've had to learn like over the years, if I was to say, and I have to constantly remember, is the first 5 seconds of hearing the tone, whatever you're doing is the most important 5 seconds.
Right.
If you sit there all afternoon and play and try to tweak your tone,
Yep.
I guarantee, especially for heavy music, because it's like a very involved palette that it's like staring at a hologram.
Right.
Or not a hologram, but like, you know, those things that with the patterns and the
Yep.
numbers start to come out?
Yep.
It changes as you stare at it. Has it changed? No, but it's changed to your perception.
Yep.
So like, if you're searching for a heavy music tone, give it 10 seconds and then turn it off,
Yep.
take a break. And like 5 minutes later, you listen to it again, and it's like, you're gonna get farther with that than
Then just sitting and
then
tweaking
with
and
6 hours sitting in front of it, like constantly like penduluming back and forth on tone land
yeah.
or whatever. So you know what I do for sometimes when we're doing these like, so Chris and I mean Chris from Propagandy, Chris Hanna can work on a tone for hours
Yep.
and still be focused on it. I leave.
Oh, really?
I work on something else, and then I come back and like sign off or like be like, this is more in the direction, but I think that one.
Right.
And chances are we're thinking exactly the same thing, but for me, it's like I need to see it fresh. And the other example would be when you put on ski goggles or any sort of colored sunglasses.
Yep.
Within like 5-10 minutes, you don't know that the sky's a different color.
Right.
You take them off and it's purple
Yep.
or green. It's like, is it?
Yeah.
So that's the same perception thing.
Yeah. That's an
So
interesting way
judge
of
it
putting
in
it
5
too.
seconds, and then decide what you want to change, and then start changing it. There's my motivational advice.
Nice.
Thanks.
Yeah, I was gonna say. That's an interesting idea. Because I definitely can resonate with that, where I just get so fatigued
Sweet.
with how things sound, and you start to think that things that do sound good sound like shit. Do you know what I mean? Because you're just so tired of hearing it, and you're like, is this really muddy? Is this like I can't tell anymore?
Yeah.
And and like that happens to us at NAMM a lot because
I can only imagine.
yeah, because number one, like the ambient
I mean,
noise
it's
in the
awesome,
room is
right?
yeah is yeah it's like 95 decibels of noise pollution for most of the day, and you have all different skill level of players that are coming in play testing stuff,
Right.
and you're like, I just can't, like even the best of players will come in and you're like, I can't hear any more of this, like a 412 cranked in a an 8x10 room.
Okay,
Like,
so here's a question. How does this work? Is there someone that walks around? Is there like a DB?
oh yes, we call them the noise police.
Okay, and they come around and they measure.
Yeah.
And they're like, you're exceeding 87 decibels.
Yep,
I'm gonna turn that down.
You're 100%
Okay,
correct.
yeah.
So what it is
Because otherwise it would be like late 90s limiters, right? Every amp would go louder until there would be.
well, that's what happens. So what they do is we always call them noise police, and they wander around with decibel meters. They one year they came to
And
us.
are they A weighted or C weighted?
I have no idea. I like that Stovey's laughing though.
See, the rectifiers would lose out again because the bass would make them sound quieter.
Yeah.
And the revs would cut through. So
They so when we sign up for NAMM, we actually sign an agreement that says that we will not be over 85 decibels
Okay.
in the aisle. So
In the aisle, in
if you're
front.
within your booth, so like say you stacked all the amps facing away, like facing into your booth at the
Right.
edge of the aisle, you might not be louder, but the noise police would come by and literally you'd be hearing people doing rim shots on snare drums, like 2 booths away from you. So it's like
Right.
peaking at like over 100 decibels, right? And
So what
they'll
kind of
come up-
metering,
they'll,
right?
They'll point the meter at your cabinet and be like, you need them to turn down. So the first time the guy came by, I joked around with him a
because
bit.
one snare drum hit, like when it's actually in the hit, it's probably like 98.
Yes.
Well, and like I'm thinking 10 feet away. It's
Yeah.
probably 98 to 100 for
Yeah.
that split second of time, and those meters are not reading that.
No. So what he did is
You should walk around with peak meters.
Yeah, he
you need
comes
to
down- comes
sue
down,
them, man.
reads his- yeah.
we need to make a change in this world.
Yeah. So we started bringing from the first NAMM show we went to. We brought a sound relatively soundproofed enclosure, like room, because we were like, we want you to be able to hear the amps without all of that noise. So it's not completely soundproof by any means, but it knocks down a huge amount of that ambient noise, so you can actually hear the amp properly, and
Right.
you don't have to crank it. People still do because I mean, what's more fun in the world than cranking a 100-watt amp into a 4x12 with any guitar with humbuckers?
You know what I did when I got my first guitar, and you're just over the moon, right?
Yep.
I'm like 13 years old. I've been playing violin my whole life, and I took my amp, which was not even an amp. It was a reel-to-reel, like a Sony reel-to-reel player
Okay.
that I plugged the guitar into, and then I plugged it into like a stereo speaker cab.
Yeah.
I don't even want to imagine what this sounded like, but I put it on my parents' driveway. And I just sat outside for hours and blasted it into the street. And I thought I was just so cool.
That's awesome. Well, you were.
I was so cool. And what would you think now? You'd be like, tell that kid to shut up. That's
Oh,
disgusting.
dude, I did almost the same thing. My mom had me go to a Bible camp with her for the week or for a weekend, and I brought my guitar and I sat out on like the step of this little cabin with my little amp and my
Oh, yeah.
guitar, which I couldn't play anything really, but I sat there playing Enter Sandman over and over again, or Smells Like Teen Spirit
sure.
or something. You know what I mean?
And all the little campers,
Yeah, they all walked
around,
by
and you
just
had
being
your
like,
own rock show.
yeah, like walked by being like, who's this idiot and why is he doing this?
Oh, you don't
Yeah.
think they weren't like, whoa?
Probably the really young ones were probably like, he's got a guitar, that's awesome. But anybody who actually knew anything about an instrument was like, he should learn to play before he sits out there.
But it's loud, so you
It
win.
was fun. You know what I mean? Like, I regret nothing.
Man,
back
if I had
back
one
to
of these
about
babies.
back to the noise police thing. So this one dude walks by, he puts it in front of the amp, and he's like,
Like how close though? Because they're
Like-
supposed to be measuring from the aisle.
like on the edge of the aisle, like this though. Like
Okay.
you can reach over because we're not that far from
And
the aisle.
and then are we talking high or low?
oh no, he points it like at a cone.
Right.
Right, and it registers like 93, and he's like, turn it down, and I'm like, I take his meter and I go like this, and I point it up into the aisle, and it says 96. I'm like, you tell them to turn down. I'm like, it's everybody else in the room. I'm like, don't come and give us a hard time when I'm like, you can't even hear this product because of the rest of the room. He's like, well, then he's like, that's because everybody turns up. You turn up a bit, they turn up a bit. And I'm like, right. I'm like, if you could go tell them to turn down the snare drums and cymbals, we'll
They
be
take
good.
bribes.
What's that?
They totally take bribes.
Yeah. Well,
I'll give you $150 if I can turn up another
You're-
6 dB.
you know what's funny? We every year after that, it was almost
They
always-
just press the under level
Yeah.
switch on the dB meter, and then it's like, oh, it doesn't register more than 75.
Yeah, look at
You're
that. You're
good.
doing great. Well,
Yeah.
what we started doing, which I'd probably give away too much if anybody from NAM is watching this, we'd see those guys at the beginning of the show, and I'd be like, hey, I'm like, you were here last year. Don't worry, we're not going to have a problem. What's your shirt size? We got a bunch of shirts. You want a t-shirt? Yeah. And then they leave us alone. You just give them some.
Perfect. It's
Like,
called
it's
bribes.
amazing what a free t-shirt will do, like, anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like, I mean, it's like calling customer service and being nice to people.
Yeah.
The best way to get customer service is just be nice.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't love their jobs, especially when most people are yelling at
When
them.
people are assholes, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, I mean, I'm not going to say I've never been an asshole to anybody in customer service, but especially in a call center. But hey, you know, yeah, I'm sure. Well, I'm pretty sure I did tell somebody at FedEx this last week, like, just do your fucking job, please. Like, they lost. I tell everybody this.
Or what
FedEx
about that amp company that reconstructed the two notes? We can't talk
Yeah.
about that.
FedEx lost $20,000 worth of 6v6 tubes of ours. Like, lost.
Okay.
Yeah. And they're
Insured.
like,
Insured.
yeah, oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So, but I'm not sure if you've heard anything in the news lately, but tubes aren't exactly easy to come by. So
No.
losing, 1,500 or more tubes in one shipment is, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And they're just like, yeah, man, sorry, yeah, well, we can't find them, so you'll have to put in a claim. I'm like, no, you should look harder. I'm like, you should find out where they were last and send somebody
did
to
they
check
find
the
them?
warehouse. No,
No, hey. Wow.
no. Luckily, our suppliers are good, so we still have, like, supply that we can get, but
Yeah, it's getting like a little bit stressful, even in studio land. It's not like, I mean, I probably have, well, 20 tube devices
yep,
of some sort.
yep,
And it's like, okay. And most of them, like most of the studio gear, you're not pushing it through the same paces.
yep,
Should last for like years,
yep.
but definitely starting to think about these things.
Oh, yeah.
And like, yeah, less and less factories and shortages and
Yeah, there's actually another factory that most people didn't know about that was in China that has ramped up. Like, they used to just do kind of hi-fi stuff, and they're ramping up, at least guitar products and, yeah, like 12AX7s and stuff like that.
yeah. So at some point, the new old stock will become like old new stock,
Yeah.
probably. But
Yeah. So, yeah, and we are seeing, like, I don't know if they're actually doing it, but there was, did you see, was it Western Electric? Who was the U.S. company that was, for anybody watching, who was the U.S. company that was going to that started talking about the fact that they were going to start making 12AX7s in the States again?
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah. I would like that. I would like that very much.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
5G. Have you had any effects on any amps that you've noticed?
I haven't noticed any.
So there's something really interesting happening with microphones, with vintage microphones.
Okay.
Particularly like the older Neumanns.
Okay.
They're not immune to the 5G towers.
Okay.
So studios in Vancouver have been working with the phone companies, and they're like turning the towers, and they're testing. And there's a lot of places where, like in the cities, where people can't even use certain mics anymore.
Really?
Yeah, it's disturbing. Like I don't know. I don't know what you do about something like this. So I was talking with Studio Economic in Montreal.
Yep.
And Montreal has, I mean, they've had 5G for a while now, I think. Anyway, they've been having all sorts of problems with noise floors on tube microphones. certain mics.
Really?
But when they take them out of the city, the noise floor is gone.
Oh, that
And
is
and
crazy.
and based on like, yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing with the towers. And at some point,
I'm laughing at the comment. Robbie says you should get your mics vaccinated.
right? Oh, that's
Yeah.
what I was hoping.
Yeah.
I think that's what needs to happen. So
Yeah.
do you have? Yeah, I need a vaccine.
I think we could make one for your. It just kills your mic. It just doesn't work anymore. Yeah, it doesn't have that noise floor issue anymore.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got one that has been exhibiting new things in the
Really?
last while. So I actually sent it to a tech in Montreal to check out, and they are in like they basically have an RF isolated facility,
Yep.
and there's no problem with it.
Uh-oh.
So I'm like, damn it. I like my internet speed, but
Yeah.
I don't like my Neumann.
Yeah. That's, yeah. Well, I mean, I haven't noticed anything. Manny, have you noticed anything here?
That's a new business, mic
No.
vaccinations.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't use
So-
any vintage mics here, so.
No, but it hasn't, like, I haven't seen any of our amps that have done anything, even older stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
No, not really.
we were running that super reverb 2 weeks ago, and it didn't make any noise.
It could just be, like the electronic level of those signals and coming out
Yeah.
of, but I mean, you'd think it would start in the guitars.
Right.
Like in single coils and stuff, just picking up more stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely, like, that, my board is built very poorly and cabled very poorly, and that Strat was
Looks
just
pretty good to me.
I mean,
I've seen worse. I mean, you've got an
I'll
orange,
take that.
You've got an orange one.
yeah.
What's up with that?
Yeah.
Keep it consistent.
I mean, I ran out of black cable. And I used to get the George L stuff all the time, and I don't know why. Like, all the new boards that we're wiring for NAM, Manny's doing all soldered connections because the solderless stuff just, these things come loose.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And then,
Literally 95% of the time when we try to do these streams, his board doesn't work.
yeah.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah, like I play at my brother's church like once a month. I'll take it to church, and then by the time I get back, like something is rattled loose and doesn't work.
And it's the solderless connections.
It's a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
It's just,
I would say mostly solderless connections and then just,
it's
yeah,
just
nothing
put-
being tied down.
Yeah, it's very poorly.
I mean,
put
you could
together.
probably save some. Gibson could save a little money going solderless.
Yeah,
In the circuitry.
yeah.
just like push the wire against the pot and put some tape over top and
Yeah.
good enough.
Gaff tape fixes everything.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it fix it when you step on the quarter-inch jack sticking out of your pedal board?
How many times have I done that? Just a few. Yeah. All right. Anybody else have any other questions? Man, we're like an hour and 45 minutes almost. Are you?
It seems to breathe different.
Do you want me to show how the fact that I've broke that module out of the side of this thing? So this is a Temple audio board. Those are the guys from Saskatoon.
Okay.
Build these boards, and they have like little modules and stuff, so you can make your boards look really great. But when you're useless and fat and step on it, it busts the module right out of the board, and then it forever hangs. So that's why your cables are having problems. But
I mean, these things happen.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But like look at this. I replaced this when I was probably 17, and I know exactly when this happened.
Yep.
Probably one of the first times I smoked pot and was trying to hide it from the band, but I was jumping up and down in the basement and like.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Just brilliance.
I remember-
Like, how do you hit the guitar, like on the ground? It's not like I was,
Yeah.
I'm not Nirvana, right?
Yeah.
I'm still up here, but
Yeah.
I actually like full on.
I remember I had an acoustic guitar that had.
I would never.
It was an acoustic electric that had a jack here, and I remember I was sitting on like the side of a stage playing it, and then I went to get up and I rolled like this and punched the input jack right into the guitar, and was devastated because it was my only acoustic at the time, and I'm like, oh, I just ruined a.
Yeah, they should make it out of metal like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Made it in my dad's shop.
Yeah, nice, very nice. Well, I'm very jealous of that guitar.
Well, you can borrow it.
I will absolutely take you up on that. Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting. I like with these pickups, they're a little bit more jangly.
Yep.
So I do have to if I was to take a standard Les Paul, or like with regular humbuckers, and play it through the same tone that I set up for this one, it wouldn't work at all.
Right.
So that is one difference. So it does, I'd probably have to, like it will bite. It's kind of like a Strat or a Telecaster. They have that little bit of jangle.
Yep.
Which I think can work. So I'm kind of trying to find this perfect zone for like the metal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm in a metal band
yeah.
called Officer Down.
Yes.
Or I
That is-
was like 20 years ago.
I was going to say. So you were an Officer Down and you were in the Undecided. Did you have any other bands after that?
Oh, I did a bunch of like other smaller projects, like a folk project called
Okay.
Chinga.
Okay. Cool.
That's an interesting one. In Low German, it means child.
Okay.
And in Spanish, it means fucker. So,
Yeah. Like Chinga?
yeah.
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 Nice.
So it's kind of like maybe you'd want to look at your trademark, just changing the name for certain
Yeah.
countries. Like, can
Or maybe not.
you imagine? Oh, this is a great new band. They're called Fucker.
Yeah.
Nice. Oh, they play like folk music, like
Yeah.
kind-hearted.
Yeah. It's ironic.
Yeah.
It's fine. Nice. That's awesome. And so when how long until you finish your Officer Down project?
We're just practicing. We're in
Okay.
practice mode. So we're playing with drum kits. We're practicing the songs. We're going to write a couple more, and then probably go fishing.
Yeah.
And you know, it's getting together with our old buds on Tuesday night to
Yep.
like, I miss that because I'm so busy in studio land. I'm working with music all day, but I'm not jamming.
Right.
You know, and I've got 2 kids. Got other things on the go, and it's like I miss it. So it's fun.
Yeah,
Fun to get back in there.
I can absolutely relate to that.
No ambitions. You know, no ambitions
No.
to do anything with it other than like get it recorded, be proud of it, put it on the Spotify's, and
Yeah, and see
not
how-
make any royalties.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And
That's the
and watch
plan.
the thing say sub 1,000 listens.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Anytime I look up like Threadline's record, it always says like less than 1,000. I'm like, all right, we're doing well.
you know, we really haven't paid attention to, you know, the Undecided. We were terrible at business stuff when we were in the band.
Right.
Like we had songs on Dawson Creek, like all sorts of big shows.
Yeah.
And like, where was the checks? And
Right.
it's just that the funnels to channel the money to the artist, you have to work so hard to get those
Yeah.
trajectories in place, those connections. Anyway,
Yep.
we were never good at that. But we were, you know, just looking. My daughter texted me from school last week, and she was like, "I was going to show one of my friends one of your songs. What's this 2014 release, The Undecided?" Right, and it's like some other band.
Oh, okay.
Just weird kind of whatever. She was like, "This is you?" Question mark, question mark. She was like distraught.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "No, that's not my shitty song." Like, we might have been shitty, but that's not my shitty.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so we actually made an Undecided Facebook page because
Okay.
so we used to be trademarked, like
Yep.
U.S., Canada, on a U.S. label. All,
Yep.
Obviously, that stuff was in place, but when that stuff lapses and it's like a decade and a half later,
Yep.
I don't know why, but people plagiarize us.
Yep.
So there's people that will like make articles where they're getting interviewed, and they're putting like my words from some article in like 20 years ago. And
Really?
pictures, yeah, and they're saying it's them, and then it links to their songs and stuff. It is absolutely bizarre. Like, we were never even like a big band. Like, what are people thinking? So we actually went through it, and we got it. You know, we made a Facebook account, made
Yep.
proper emails and stuff, and Spotify like separated our Undecided records from the other Undecided records.
Oh, that's crazy. Well,
So yeah, it's
see, we had like
Bizarre.
we had a really small independent label deal too. You guys were on like a way bigger label because you guys were on Tooth and Nail,
Yeah,
right?
Tooth and Nail.
Yeah. We had a really really small independent label that we did our second record with, and I still don't know who.
Which one was that?
It was a tiny label called Bloodbought Records that
Okay.
it was like us and one other band that was a not very good metal band, like a very not good metal band, called Shining Force, and the label was literally just a really nice guy that really believed in us and another band and wanted to start his own label, so started an indie label. We had a great deal. Like, we had a 1 disc, 1 year, 1 record, no option deal, no recoup. So he paid for our record,
Okay.
and we got like a fairly healthy royalty rate from the first record sold, which we never got any royalties from the label because we convinced them to let us press our own copies of our CDs and not have to buy them from them
Well,
because
that's not
we'd
bad.
Yeah, so we were buying our own CDs for like $2 a CD, and I said, look, I'll just give you a report of how many we sell independently, and you know, I said we can pay a royalty to you for if you want.
That's pretty reasonable.
Yeah, and in the end, like, he was awesome. He's like, yeah, you know, you're better at marketing than I am, so just tell me what you guys want to do. And we were sending like press kits to radio stations and stuff. He's like, I'll cover that out of what royalties you guys would have to pay me. Because I said, like, look, you know, we're in Canada. It's easier for us to press here. You want $4 a disc? I can get it for just over $2. How about I just send you $1.50 a disc?
Right.
And he was like, sure. And then he let us spend all that money on marketing instead. But yeah, it was interesting that, so somebody uploaded it to Spotify. I would assume that it's him because there's no one from our band that did it, and we didn't have any real management or anybody. Like, we did everything independently.
People actually ask me, like, what does it take to get my music on Spotify? Like, that must be a really hard thing. You must be a really big project.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, you could probably write a song tonight
Yeah, and
get it on Spotify tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, we can make it happen.
So I don't know. I don't know if that guy's still around or who controls music. I've never
Interesting.
bothered, I never bothered registering.
Could have been
with,
just a fan.
Yeah, SoCan and
Yeah.
ASCAP and stuff like that. I never bothered. I was like, we're not going to be on the radio enough to.
Like, literally,
get
someone could
royalties.
take your record.
Yeah.
And Canada has, like, no copyright laws.
Yeah.
Like, we are completely, I won't even get into it, but it's absolutely ridiculous. So there's no way to really, like, retroactively come after, you know, people to get paid.
Right.
You could, if you can change the deal, you can maybe start getting paid. But
Right.
So someone could probably just upload your stuff
Yep.
and sign the paperwork
Yep.
and channel it to their bank account, and they're making royalties off it. I mean, this
Yeah.
is what SoCan does.
Yep.
No offense, SoCan.
Yep.
Anyway,
Yeah.
unless they like, and the industry has always been set up to screw over the artist. This is
Right.
this is the thing, and like, it's always been set up like we didn't know business, right?
Yep.
So even the people that like were, you know, our label, for example, they couldn't set us up with people that we could even pay to like show us, here's how to make sure to plug in the correct,
Yep.
you know, get your transit number.
Yep.
Like, figure this out. Oh, you have a publishing company. You should open a bank account under that publishing company.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't know anything. It's
Yeah.
it's so embarrassing.
Well, I mean, that's the way it goes for a lot of bands. Like, I know a lot of guys that were involved in decent-sized projects that never saw a dime on it. Like, guys that, you know, helped either arrange stuff and just don't get any royalties or anything, because you just, when you're young, like when you're late teens to early 20s, you know, at least I was the one that was more money focused than anybody else and was more business focused than anyone else.
I always felt like you guys had, like, what I knew about you, I thought you had a strong, like, business acumen. Like,
yeah,
I'm not trying to, you know, toot your horn. I was just like, oh, you've got like, there's like a backdrop at the show. There's,
Yep.
you know, there's stuff in line, right?
Yep.
And I'm like, oh man, we've got like a cash box in an old
Yep.
briefcase.
Yep.
Like, it just,
Like, I just took notes from, like, you know, going to Cornerstone and other places and being like, what did I like about what other people were doing? And I mean, most of the ideas are, you know, rented from somebody
Yeah.
else or borrowed from somebody else and stolen.
but I mean, it
But
translates, right? Now,
it worked.
business acumen.
You know what, man, it worked. And like, I would say that, like, comparing us and other bands that, like, Stereotrap's a great example. Stereotrap, business-wise, performed way worse than us on a lot of stuff. Like, we would play shows with them, they wouldn't sell merch anywhere near the rate that we
Were
did.
they from Winnipeg? Where were they
They're from Saskatoon.
Saskatoon.
But song-wise, and definitely, no offense to our singer, vocal-wise, like, Colin was a phenomenal singer for, like, hard rock stuff like that, like the Creedy, Nickelbacky type stuff. Anyone who's watching that wants to hear that kind of music, go check out. The EP was called Are We the Wind or the Waves that you did with Stereotrap. There's a killer song called Life Giver that's got killer guitar
I
riff.
remember that song.
Yep, killer guitar riff and great singer.
And now I remember Colin too.
And Cass Bittner, who is the bass player, is the GM at Temple Audio Boards now. So he
Is that on
builds it.
Spotify?
Oh, I'm sure they have to
Okay.
be, or iTunes or somewhere, Apple
have to-
Music or something. Yeah, it's
I've been going through like Blast from the past.
oh, yeah?
Sorry, I'm totally interrupting.
No. So we would play shows with guys like that where, in my opinion, they were probably a tighter band, definitely better songs, better singer. We'd outsell them merch-wise, night to night, like consistently. I don't know if it was better merch designs at the time. I think it had a lot to do with the fact
I know
that,
what it was.
What's that?
Seafoam.
Yeah. Maybe. We just,
Seafoam shirts.
yeah. We had, well, when all the emo bands started, we had a hoodie out that said "Friends don't let friends play in emo bands." We sold tons of those. It was fun. So
That's cool.
I think that
That's ahead of its time.
yeah, I think the thing that we did well was that we didn't take ourselves seriously. Like on stage, we knew that we were going to make mistakes. Stobes and I have always been complete asses and make fun of each other, and like him constantly, cracking beers on the mic. So when you're not taking yourself too seriously and the crowd gets in on the fact that you're actually there having a good time, and that's part of where I think that there's a lot of things we did where we could have made more money, we could have done better, we could have moved further, but we were way more concerned with going to play a show than whether or not we were going to make any money for doing it. We were far more concerned with, okay, let's go do another show, because that means we're doing it, we're getting bigger, we're getting better, all that stuff. So
Well, and I think if that's not there, it doesn't have the same thing. But there comes a point where it's like if you want to make it sustainable,
oh yes,
then there has to be some element of the other, or someone put in place to assist.
yeah, and as soon as that person gets put in place, well, that's what, like when you were you did the Receptions record, and
Right.
when I was done with Threadline, I started helping with artist development stuff. Like I would help with marketing, management, booking, stuff like that for the Reception, for Stereotrap, like a couple other small bands like that, because a bunch of those guys just didn't know what to do, and I think to a certain degree some of them weren't really interested in learning it. Do you know what I mean? They wanted to play
Yeah.
songs and write songs, and
They were from McGregor, Manitoba, I think,
probably.
which would be probably half an hour from Carmen.
Yeah, it would be a little
Could be wrong.
further, but
But you didn't know them from before.
no, I did. Well, JP.
Yeah.
So JP actually
Drummer.
works here
Oh, really?
he's like our operations manager.
Sweet.
So yeah, I knew him from when he was in Bailey's car. So from way back. So so I think that
That was before we were in the scene, I think,
yeah.
like in the Christian scene.
Yes, I think so. Well, you guys were like the band that
We used to say fuck a lot more.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, because you could.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We went from saying fuck a lot to not saying fuck as much.
right.
Yeah.
It seems like I learned that was very much a real thing that happened when I started meeting bigger Christian artists from the States. Like once I started to meet heavy touring Christian artists, that were like playing every one of the Christian festivals and on like main stages and stuff like that. You started to realize like, oh, there's something a whole lot different here than what it's like for us up here. But yeah. What's that? I don't know what they're talking about there. Anyway, do you guys have any other questions for us? We're about to hit 2 hours, and John and I are just going to keep talking about local scene stuff and our bands from 20 years ago.
Oh,
Yeah. It was fun. I have said to Stobes about the whole like marketing side of things and like management side of things. I've told him that, I would love to see if I could do what we did before again, because it seems like all the other bands that I see that are like, especially merch wise, and that when they're out playing, that they just don't do anywhere near the types of numbers and stuff that we used to do. And I'm like, I don't believe that. I don't believe that the customer that you're selling to has changed that much. I'm like, but I'd love to see whether or not that's true or not. But
Well,
then I
and
realized I
it's-
have
yeah.
4 children in no time.
But also seeing how certain trends come back, like what my
Yeah.
daughter's wearing right now.
Yeah.
So she's 16, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
She loves the metal shirts.
Yep.
She's stealing all my black metal shirts
Yep.
from like, and she's like taking off the sleeves, and she's like ripping the jeans and stuff, and
Yep.
it's like 20-year cycle.
Yep. My
It's
niece.
really interesting.
My niece is the same way. She's, I think she's 14, maybe turning 15 this year, and like we have like one Rev shirt that has like a cow skull with like a bunch of blood and stuff like that. It's the only, we call it our metal shirt, and she was like, "Hey, Uncle Derek, like, do you have any of those like either shirts or hoodies left?" And I'm like, "You don't listen to this kind of music at all." She's like, "No, but that shirt's cool."
No, it's a style now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it's yeah. And I'm like, I don't get it, but
Yeah. So I think like, I mean, back in '95, that would have been posers,
yes,
right? Like
Oh,
you don't
yes.
wear a NoFX shirt if you don't listen to NoFX,
right.
or like whatever. It's
I know. I saw
like, who's that person? They weren't at the show. What are they doing with that shirt?
she was wearing a Led Zeppelin shirt one day, and I'm like, name one Led Zeppelin song, just any one, and she's like, shut up, and I'm like,
Not even Stairway to Heaven. Come
no,
on.
nothing, nothing. Okay, what's this? Best thing I did in my old band was making friends with a local print shop, and we got a stack of show posters for like $2 every show. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Best thing I ever did was when I played in a band, I got a job at a screen printing company. We print my own shirts, and then eventually I turned it into 2 companies.
And I learned that if you know a senator,
Yeah.
then you can cross into the States without any questions asked.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, we had a show booked in Sioux City, Iowa.
Yep.
Sioux City is Iowa, right?
Yep.
Or South Dakota.
Sioux Falls, South
Could have
Dakota.
been it could have been Sioux Falls, South
Yep.
Dakota. Anyways, applied for the P2 visas, and they didn't come on time.
Okay.
Like the application was late, the show was whatever, the window was too tight.
Yep.
Things were held up. So we told the promoter like we're not going to be able to make it down, and they were like, "Oh, we're super bummed. Hold up, make some phone calls." So it's like go to the border and say that so and so gave authorization, and it's like he's like, "Don't worry about it." And so from all my border experiences, I would say if I could the worst part of being in an international, at least a states crossing band,
Yep.
was the border.
Yeah.
Like every time. I mean, in all honesty, like there were untruths said at the border.
Oh, yeah.
Too many times to count. And I hate that because you're like, if they catch us, oh man, we're screwed. I'm never getting into the States again. Anyways, we show up at the border and we've been turned back. We've had our like merchandise like pillaged, cut apart.
I was gonna say, I remember hearing a
We've had
story
so
about
many-
you guys having like shirts have.
Oh yeah,
like,
they
shirts
and that's not even, apparently that's not legal. Apparently they can't make you destroy your own property.
Yep.
But we had shirts crossing over in Seattle one time. We had a bag of shirts, and we were kind of smart. Most of our shirts were like bolted away in guitar cabinets.
Yep.
But the other ones were like the token shirts in a bag.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, here's our merch,
Yep.
and we had to sit in front of them and cut every single shirt apart with scissors. And they're
Yeah.
like, yeah, try to sell those. That's what they said. And I'm like, is this like legit? And then we talked to people later, and they're like, they can't do that.
Yeah.
But we didn't know we're kids, and they just took advantage.
Well, and you have no rights when you're at the border,
But
right?
with this senator thing, it's like we just showed up at the border, and they're like, "Oh, you're in a band, are you? All right. Well," and we're like, "Actually, so and so said that we have clearance," and then you hear like the whispers, and they turned around, and they're like, "Okay, go."
Wow.
Like, no, let's rubber glove you. No,
No.
let's like
Yeah.
go in the cubicle. It's like, no, you're going across because so and so. So yeah, you want to get somewhere, you just know a senator.
Yeah.
And I felt really bad because I'm like, this isn't even fair. Like, this isn't fair to anybody. It's not fair to myself,
Yeah.
but it was nice.
I mean, it was like the
that
late
one.
late 90s for sure, and early 2000s. Crossing the border was a nightmare
Yeah.
as a musician,
Oh, yeah.
whether you were playing or not. Like, I remember going down to shows in the States, and as soon as you pulled up, like without fail, it's like pull into Bay 1, pull
Yeah.
into
Oh,
Bay
yeah, for
1.
sure.
Like, they're gonna search everything. They're gonna separate you into separate rooms. I remember them saying like, so you playing a band? Like, where are you playing? And I'm like, nowhere now. I'm like, but we do have a website and you can look at it, and we're playing at a barn in Kleefeld in 2 weeks if you're coming out, you know. And like they'd be like, well, you're traveling with one of your other band members. And I'm like, yeah, because we're friends and we're going to a show. Well, are you playing at the show? No, I don't have a guitar. Like, I don't have anything here. Well, you could borrow stuff. Is that really a problem? Like, if we have to borrow stuff, are we really making enough money that you're worried about? You know what I mean?
Backline.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Right.
and I feel like, well, and there used to be crazy laws around merch specifically. The reason they cut up your shirts is because there used to be quotas about T-shirts being imported into the U.S. And like, I found out about.
Well, yeah,
all this.
you would need to have your, like, where did the cotton come from or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's so for the little guy, right?
Yeah.
That's the problem. Like, for a big company making an import, it's like you get all the information. You have people that do this stuff. It's like, here's
yeah.
where the product is from, here's where it's manufactured, here's where it's like assembled, and then you sign the appropriate paperwork. You decide if that's a valuable,
Yep.
business venture, and then you sign off on it and you do your thing. I mean, that's like doing things legitimately
Yeah.
for businesses, and there's lots of other ways to do things that people do, but like that's what you do. But for the little guy, like, we barely have time to like figure out whether we're playing the next show
Yep.
because we can't get back to the promoter. So you're spending all day on the phone. Like, you don't have time.
Well, and you didn't have email.
do all
You
those
didn't
other
have
things.
like.
Oh, yeah.
This is all like pre.
Phone. Yeah,
Yeah,
our first
it's-
tour was phone.
Yeah.
You probably too.
Yep, almost everything was like
Yeah.
we were like just the start of like message boards and internet, like internet marketing, like
But
MySpace.
I got a good one for you.
Yeah,
So the Undecided's first tour,
Yep.
we went down and played like Gilman Street in LA or in San Francisco, which is like where NoFX's Sticking in My Eye videos filmed.
Yep.
Like, I slept on that stage.
That's
Anyways,
awesome.
this tour, we booked the entire thing because someone gave us Procter and Gamble employee phone card number. Figure that one out. I have no idea, but after every time we called a promoter,
yep.
we just added this other number in, and all of our calls were free for the entire tour. Like, thousands of dollars of calls.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, what a different world that we live in now.
And now it's
Like,
just email. It's free.
it's even, and it's like video calls for free over your, or whatever. Now $12 a day when you're in the
But
U.S.
Procter
for
and Gamble
roaming.
was owned by Satanists, so we could justify
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it was crazy. Like, we only, so what do we do? Like 2 or 3 shows in the U.S. in total?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, maybe. Well, less than 10 for sure, because it was just such a huge pain, like the visa thing,
Oh, yeah.
and merch and that, and like what I know now about it, I'm like, oh, like, I mean, the visas are a pain, but
Yeah.
like merch, oh, like any band needs their merch in the U.S.
But you
email
you
me
know
and
this
I'll-
stuff. You know this stuff now, right?
Yes,
You know how to
exactly.
do it.
Well,
and that's the problem, as you don't know how to do those things.
Yeah, as a 21-year-old, you have no idea.
Like, we had a contract from Cornerstone Festival
Yep.
to play
Yep.
that said you're not getting paid, and we weren't getting paid.
Yep.
We were literally going to play for free at a festival, and the border turned us around and made us go home. They said, exposure's as good as money,
Yep.
so you can turn around and go home. Like, we were shook.
Yep.
I mean, we had a whole tour planned around that.
Yeah.
But still, that was aside from the question. So that was literally, what are we going to do?
Wow. When we
So the next morning, we showed up in Altona.
Yep.
Like, we tried it at Pembina, and they were typically assholes. So then next show's in Altona. Or, sorry, next day we go through Altona, and he's like, didn't you just try to cross at Pembina yesterday?
yeah.
And we're like, yeah, we did.
yeah.
Can we please cross? And this guy, like, Altona, I don't know, very small border crossing there.
Yep.
Nietzsche, I think.
Yep.
Nietzsche?
Yep.
Anyway, I think the guy they must have had a little bit of a competition or something.
Yeah.
But this guy was like, oh, they turned you down, hey? Well, I'm going to let you go.
Yep.
But you have to sign this, basically a paper saying that you're going to be, it's a pink slip. It says you have to be back in 8 days when you
Right.
say.
Yep.
Or there's a warrant.
Yeah.
So it worked out great. We crossed the border, played the festival, left all our gear,
Yep.
crossed back to Manitoba, crossed back into the States as tourists, picked up our gear, went on tour.
Nice.
Yeah, brilliant.
Well, Stobes is a dual citizen, so
Oh.
we would cross in separate vehicles, and we would get backlined, and Stobes could bring our guitars across because they couldn't say anything to him about it
Right.
because he was an American returning home. So he would bring, and we would backline as much stuff as we possibly could. So
Yeah.
you would take like guitars and pedal boards, and then your parents would like smuggle merch across for us taking it like when they go to Grand Forks for the weekend. So we had like a stockpile of merch, like, and by merch I mean like we had a box of CDs and some stickers and like 10 T-shirts that we could sell at the H's Cellar and whatever little venues we were going to play in North Dakota and in Minnesota. But
Yeah, but it's still not easy. You're still making shuttling back and forth, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
ridiculous.
yeah, like there's I mean for local bands I've helped lots of guys here because one of the things that I understand the printing side of it really well, right? So moving your merch in and out of the
Yeah.
U.S. is actually significantly easier if you know the loopholes and if you know what to do, right? So I've like
Can
Jordan.
we go back 20 years, and can
Oh.
I talk to you about that?
I know, like
It's too late.
if I go back 20 years and do that and then go play in the States instead of
our
playing
our biggest
Canada so
financial
much.
mistake as a band was actually on one particular tour where we got a whole bunch of merch designs made in the States and
Yep.
shipped to different shows.
Yep.
We didn't make big enough runs. We ordered too many designs.
Yep.
Like we lost like, I don't know, 10, 12 grand. Like we sold the merch and then a bunch of it got destroyed at the border,
Right.
and we were paying off merch debts
right.
after tour.
Because you did too many colors, you did not enough. of
Yeah, like
everything.
just
Yep.
again, not being super business smart, but like we would have got all the stuff made in Canada and gone down with it
Yep.
and paid whatever tariffs, but we thought this would be easier.
Yeah.
So there was a company that was all set up to like ship merch around all over the place and make it convenient,
Yeah.
which is great if you're ordering 1,500 units.
Yes.
But if you're ordering like 50 of each run,
yes.
this is stupid.
Yes.
So
Yep. The game
did I
is
mention we were stupid?
well, the tools that we all had at our disposal back then, like it was so limited compared to. It's full circle back to us talking about like gear of what's available. Like, none of this existed. What existed was like the Boss.
Yeah. Did we even have the TU3?
No, I had the TU2.
Yeah.
And I have the same TR2.
I had the Korg DTR2 rack tuner.
Okay. Yeah. With the jumping light.
And it did jump a lot.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. Like Korg, I've had Korg tuners that work. That one, not so much.
Like we had that.
The Memory Man,
I didn't have the Memory Man. I had the Line 6 DL4.
the Boss CE2 chorus,
Nice. Yeah.
repainted by my daughter.
I had the.
Oh, and the Tremolo would have existed, and the Maxon 808 potentially.
You had the compressor sustainer.
Oh,
Boss
you
pedal.
remember that?
I do.
You know
because-
why I used that thing?
I don't know, but I saw you use it, and then I bought one.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Oh, shit. It's a terrible sounding pedal. The only reason I used it was because playing like very low gain in a
Yep.
punk rock band,
Yep.
and then playing leads,
Yep.
and trying to jump around.
Yep.
You drop a note, and it's gone, right? So I needed something to like slam. It wasn't just extra level. It was like you could not even hit the string, and there's
Yeah,
a
and it
note
would bring
there.
it up. Yeah.
So I could just go and like do that, and it made my job easier. Yeah.
I asked you about it, and you're like, I use it for solos. I'm like, cool. I bought one. I started using it for solos.
I mean,
and it worked.
I won't take that back. I
Yeah.
actually still have that thing. I don't think I've plugged it in 15 years.
I have mine's in my office. Like I don't.
You should
like,
have
is
it here, like right here,
I know.
on a pedestal.
I should have. Yes. Should have thought about that. I should have got the Kramers out. All sorts of stuff. All right, we're like getting way
Okay.
long, and we're gonna keep talking about our bands, which most of you probably don't care about. So, okay, check out anything that John Paul does. He does lots of great records, and yeah,
Thanks. My
thank
friend.
you for coming and hanging.
Absolutely.
And Anthony, you'll never get a guitar like his, but you can try.
You know, I will say, my friend Eric said, "I want your guitar," and
Yep.
I kid you not, 2 years ago, this guitar came for sale in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
No cracks.
Yeah. You told me about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I almost bought. There was somebody who has the Sunburst or like Cherry Burst version
He
of
got
it.
he got it for like $5,300.
Nice.
Yeah, and it had the original. Everything was original
Nice.
on it, but it does. I don't know. It doesn't. It's not exactly the same, but maybe it's just it hadn't been worked in.
It could be. The Les Pauls are all different. Like Dorian has convinced me that all the 91s are good though, because every 91 I've played is good. But other than that, I think they're all different.
I'll have to try 91 sometime.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for being here tonight.
Totally.
And yeah. All right, guys. We're gonna do the same dumb shit we always do. I'm gonna turn on all my pedals and make a bunch of noise. You want to
Okay.
do the same thing?
I'll play along.
All right.
Are we tuning to? Are we tuning to?
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Let's go up.
You want to come back up?
Oh yeah, party. Are you ear tuning?
It's so far out that I can't.
Who
not.
does that? I want to ear tune. Okay.
It's just terrible.
Love it. You got the ABY on?
What did you like?
No, I was just wondering if the ABY was on.
No, I do. I usually run 2 of our little D20 heads. That's why I use it.
Oh, is it a ghost? It's a ghost right now. It's not even plugged in.
No, yeah, it doesn't do anything. Just looks not good. All right, everybody, thanks. We'll see you next week. Make sure you stop in next week. It's going to be fun.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be cool.
Yeah.
Happy tune outs.
Yes.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. I love this.
Yeah, no, I run 2 D20s when I play at my brother's church.